Hey guys, tonight we're trading Netflix doom scrolls for a moonlit stomp through an orchard that make Dionysus quit wine cold turkey. You step through gnarled olive gates older than Caesar's daddy issues. The scent of jasmine slaps you harder than a Roman centurion's sandal. Damp earth squelches under your boots like nature's bubble wrap. Yeah, those olive trees. Each one's a flex back in the day. Wealthy Mediterraneans planted them to show off deeper pockets than Midas' laundry hamper. Twilight stains everything the color of oversteeped bergamot tea. Shadows stretch across terracotta paths, velvet ribbons unraveling into the gloom. Your phone dies with a sad bloop. No Google Maps here, just the primal panic of realizing night-blooming flowers smell like a billionaire's candle collection. Crisp air nips your lungs. Don't slip on the moss. It's sneakier than a Byzantine tax collector. Fun fact: ancient hosts spiked wine with jasmine oil to knock guests out. Works better than Tinder dates explaining their astrology charts. You brush a low-hanging branch, 12 blossoms rain down. Catch one, congrats. You've just pocketed more serotonin than a 3-day meditation retreat. Drop it. The orchard's judging you harder than a Carthaginian staring at Roman plumbing. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Tap your current city and local time below. We've got viewers from Samarkand to Saskatoon wondering if their 3M matches this vibe. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your first 10 steps scream tourist. Too loud, too stompy. The orchard corrects you, air thickens, until each breath feels like sipping honeyed fog. Citron leaves glisten under fickle moonlight. Those dark splotches on the path could be fig pulp, could be 17th century bloodstains from rival perfumers. Historians still argue whether gardeners pruned these trees for bigger fruit or just to spell out naughty hieroglyphs. Sudden breeze. Jasmine attacks again. You're basically marinating in Joe Malone's abandonware. A bat zips past, mocking your lack of echolocation. Your foot sinks into mud, cold ooze seeps through your shoe. 8 seconds of disgust. Then, quiet awe as bioluminescent fungi spark to life. Tiny neon veins pulse through the muck, nature's version of airport runway lights. You spot a crumbling well up ahead. Moss swallows the stones, centuries of neglect, wearing it down like a pensioner's smile. Peer over the edge. Black water mirrors the sky. Orion's belt floats beside your dumbstruck face. Lean too far. Let's not recreate that one Dionysian cult initiation scene. Something crunches underfoot. Broken pottery shard, glazed remnants cling to curved clay. Maybe part of a wine jug or an urn. Hard to tell. Rub the dirt off, your thumb finds grooves. Symbols, could be tax records, could be ancient Yelp reviews trashing the olive harvest of 1423. Leaves rustle left, then right. Paranoia blooms like nightshade. Probably just ibises playing tag. Probably. That's when you hear it, a low hum vibrating your molars. Follow it past a thicket of pomegranate trees. There, a cluster of clay pots, half buried in red soil. Steam curls from their lips. No fire underneath, no logical reason they should be hot. Touch one, scorch your fingertips. You hiss. The orchard chuckles in creaking branches. Did Phoenician merchants brew tea here? Or maybe this was the world's sketchiest espresso machine. Either way, it works. Breathe in cinnamon, tamarind, something metallic. Your pores exhale yesterday's stress. A root snags your ankle. You stagger, palm slams into a tree trunk. Bark patterns press into your skin. Squint carvings. Suns, waves, a stick figure goat. Graffiti transcends millennia, apparently. Trace the grooves. For a heartbeat, you're a homesick sailor etching your ex's name circa 200 BCE. Wind shifts. The hum dies. Silence rushes back like tide over coals. You turn, every hair prickling. Moonlight bleeds through twisted branches, and there, you crouch beside clay pots glazed in centuries-old ash, their bellies still warm from yesterday's fire. The keeper's hands move like spiders dancing on harp strings, plucking citron leaves without bending a single spine. Moonlight turns their edges to mercury. Some say Moors introduced distillation to medieval Europe, but nobody mentions how fragile old perfume flasks crack under modern fingers. Dew beads on the rim of a Celadon teacup as they slide it toward you. Steam curls into something between a scorpion and a question mark. Watch the patterns. They murmur, their voice rough as pomegranate bark. Historians still argue whether 12th century alchemists used tea steam for weather prediction or just really bad poetry. You're leaning toward the poetry. A clay jug gurgles, its throat full of secrets and mint. The keeper pours, without spilling a drop, 19 years of muscle memory shining in their wrists. You catch yourself counting the ceramic chips along the spout, each nick a map of near disasters. One chip's edges glow amber from countless mends. Your guide smirks, beeswax, and regret hold better than mortar. A pine nut shell cracks under your heel. The sound sends fireflies fleeing into the fig trees. Apologies to the lamps. The keeper mutters, stirring crushed anise stars into the brew. Their mortar and pestle were salvaged from a Byzantine shipwreck. The grooves still smell of salt and sailors' curses. You inhale bergamot and the ghost of olive wood smoke. Your shoulders unclench without permission. Stars pulse above each flicker, synchronized to the kettle's soft hiss. The keeper traces a spiral in the air. Steam follows like a charmed snake. Dragon's breath for thirsty constellations. They whisper, your tea cools faster than physics should allow some trick of the clay or the hour. You don't ask. Skepticism dissolves quicker than cardamom in boiling water here. A nightjar calls 3 sharp notes that match the tempo of pouring liquid. The keeper's eyes narrow. That's new. They dip a finger into their cup, flick droplets toward the sound. Historians love debating ancient irrigation charts, but nobody writes about the language of birds stealing sips of tea. You watch shadows shift, learning to read silence between steam ribbons. Your cup empties despite never lifting it. The keeper nods. Good. Means you're listening. They rub a thumb over the jug's handle, worn smooth by 3 generations of poured midnights. Moonlight pools in the vessel's curves, a liquid mirror showing your face smudged with starlight and sleep. Somewhere beyond the wall, a fox barks at the distorted moon. The keeper's laugh rasps like a match struck on stone. He's late for his tribute. They push a saucer of honey toward the orchard's edge, amber, oozing over blue glaze. You remember reading that Moors once armored war elephants in citrus oil. But here, the only battles fought are against dawn's impatient fingers. Your eyelids dip tea and moonlight pooling in your veins. The keeper's voice sinks into your bones. Rest. The orchard counts your breaths between now and first light. Clay clinks as they bank the embers, each sound a lullaby scraped from the earth's oldest song. Stars blur above, no longer points, but smears of silver paint. The last coherent thought you salvage, whether steam dreams of becoming cloud, or if it mourns the weightlessness, you wake to charcoal's dying crackle. Dawn licks the copper kettle's curved belly. The keeper kneels, tossing cinnamon sticks into flames, their bark curling like ancient scrolls. Fact: Crusaders hauled cinnamon from Sri Lanka thinking it grew in Arabian bird nests. You stifle a yawn. Turns out medieval spice myths make decent bedtime stories. Rose petals hit boiling water, unfurling into crimson sails. Steam carries whispers of Persian perfume bazaars and 3 AM infomercials. Your guide taps the kettle. Alarm clocks hadn't been invented, so we married fire and impatience. A joke, you think, but their face stays carved from last night's shadows. Light crests the wall, blinding white, searing away star smudges on your sleeves. The keeper squints. Sun's a rude guest, never knocks, just spills through windows. They pour tea into cups stained by decades of tannins. One sip floods your mouth with gardens, roses, and the metallic tang of the kettle. Archaeologists found 1,200-year-old teapots in Iraq, still clogged with cardamom husks. You mention it, earning a half smile. Those fools tried drinking through museum glass. They grunt, stirring honey into their cup. Bees drone past, their legs heavy with pollen stolen from dawn's first blooms. Your thumb brushes the cup's handle, still hot from generations of palm prints. The keeper nods, heats a family tree. Historians still argue whether Damascus steel influenced teapot designs or just made better swords. You eye the kettle's pitted surface, noticing vine engravings devoured by patina. A drop splashes your wrist, rosewater or sweat. It stings either way. Watch the petals. The keeper warns, plucking one from your sleeve. They'll tattoo your skin given half a chance. You pretend not to see their calloused fingers trembling, steam or age. Who knows? Sunlight hits the orchard, turning apricots into molten gold hanging from branches. Your guide mutters a Berber rhyme, each word sinking with water hitting copper. Fact: nomads used boiling tunes to calculate travel times across deserts. You file that under useful if Wi-Fi dies. The tea cools its surface, forming an oily rainbow like gasoline puddles. The keeper scowls. Don't drink that dead leaves and regret. They dump it onto thirsty soil, steam hissing through cracks. A line of ants flees the scald, carrying pearl-sized larvae. You crush a rosehip underfoot, its pulp staining the path rust-red. Waste not, the keeper chides, scooping seeds into a leather pouch. They'll plant them near the compost heap, where death keeps better soil than life. Heat thickens, pressing down until breathing feels like chewing wool. Fact: Moorish engineers invented clay coolant jars centuries before refrigeration. You mention this, hoping for shade. The keeper points to a gnarled fig tree. Engineering's overrated. Sit where the roots laugh at the sun. Shadows shrink, your back bakes like bread in a taboon oven. Teas abandoned for water, scooped from a cistern. The keeper watches you gulp slow, or you'll drown the thirst before it learns your name. The water tastes of limestone and stolen midnight rains. A lizard sunbathes on the wall, its throat pulsing like a metronome. Your guide flicks a pebble. It skitters, then stops. Timekeeper, they explain. Faster than an hourglass, cheaper than a sundial. You vow to bookmark that life hack right after finding Wi-Fi. Noon nears, the keeper wraps the kettle in damp jute. Keeps it honest, they say, knotting frayed ropes with surgeon fingers. Fact: jute binds ferment faster in humidity, but you're too parched to care. Your tongue sticks to your teeth, suddenly fluent in desert. The last pour comes lukewarm, flavored with dust and resignation. You drink it anyway. Bees swarm discarded cups, sucking at dregs like tiny amber vacuum cleaners. The keeper watches. They're plotting to steal the recipe. Their smirk suggests it's already happened. Light bleaches everything. Orchard walls your thoughts, the keeper's wrinkles. You both retreat under a carob tree's scrawny shade. Their elbow brushes yours, skin rough as a nutmeg grater. Rest, the ants will handle cleanup. Close your eyes, the world shrinks to heat, honey, and the distant scream of a falcon. Faded carob shade stretches thin. The keeper's sandal taps your ankle. Figs don't wait for nappers. They rasp, pointing to gnarled trunks ahead. You follow, crushing dried palm fronds that crackle like old bones. A ripe fig plops onto your shoulder, bursting into a sticky star. The keeper huffs. Consider it a baptism. Warmth oozes down your neck, too sweet cloying as second-hand perfume. Stone tiles gleam underfoot, etched with century-old tool marks. Fact: mosaics in Pompeii show figs being sold alongside dormice and lotus flowers. You mention dormice, getting a side-eye. Turns out tourists haven't improved since AD 79. Branches arch overhead, knuckles gripping unseen weights. Split fruit dots the ground, fermenting into fermented wine puddles. Wasps hover drunk on sugar and afternoon heat. The keeper flicks one away, lousy drinking buddies. Always pick fights near the good stuff. Sunlight filters through fig leaves, printing coin-shaped shadows on your arms. You count them 93 before losing track. Historians still argue whether Phoenicians spread fig cultivation or just took credit. The keeper snorts Phoenicians' greatest feat, convincing everyone they existed. Your thumbnail digs into a fig's purple skin, peeling it back like a wound. Gelatinous seeds spill out, glistening alien. Eat it whole, the keeper orders. Analysis kills the magic. Pulp coats your tongue, honey and grit, like licking a dusty beehive. A branch creaks 3 notes, C flat G, your head snaps up. The keeper smirks, official anthem of thirsty trees. Fact: Athenian farmers played flute music to stimulate ripening, though they preferred Dorian mode. You ask if playlists matter. Depends, does your phone work here? Wind stirs, carrying salt from distant coasts. Figs thud around you, soft artillery fire. The keeper catches one mid-fall, slicing it open with a thumbnail. This one's for the wall, they say, smearing ruby guts on sun-bleached stone. Ants swarm the offering, a moving tapestry. You press a palm to the trunk bark, furrowed like an old forehead. Sap beads where branches split, amber tears hardening in air. The keeper taps a knobby growth cancer, but slow, gives the tree time to argue. Their knife shaves it off, tosses it into brambles. Shade shifts, you're standing in full sun again. The keeper yanks you sideways under a denser canopy. Mobility is survival, they mutter. A dried fig sticks to your sandal, leaving a Rorschach blot on leather. Birds argue in the canopy, screams punctuated by wing beats. A half-eaten fig hits your head, splattering like a water balloon. The keeper chuckles, second baptism. You're practically ordained now. They pluck a leaf, its white sap oozing onto their wrist. Milky trails fork, forming delta maps. Fact: Roman naturalists believed fig milk cured warts if applied during a waxing moon. You mention lunar phases, superstitions, just science we forgot to measure. They shrug, wiping sap on their tunic. Breeze dies, air congeals into syrup. You lick salt from your upper lip, tasting the Mediterranean 3 countries away. The keeper unwraps a cloth, revealing desiccated figs, mummified in their own sugar. Emergency rations, they explain, offering 1 fossilized lump. It fights your teeth chewy as a saddlebag. Dates would be sweeter, less seeds, but you don't say it. The keeper reads your face anyway. Civilizations flaw, expecting kindness from something that grew thorns first. A branch cracks, startling a gecko off the wall. Dust, motes swirl where it stood golden in slanting light. The keeper studies the fissure, drought's autograph. Their fingers probe the split, withdrawing coated in powdery rot. Twilight oozes across the orchard, merging fig shadows into one bruise-colored stain. The keeper kneels, prying a stone from the path. Underneath, pale roots twist like buried lightning. Drunkards, they whisper, digging deeper each year for a decent sip. Crickets rev up, their chirps syncing with the keeper's pocket watch. You don't ask why they carry it. The answer's always tradition. Instead, you count fallen figs, reaching 42 before mosquitoes drive you inside. The keeper lights a pine resin torch, smoke scouring the air. Flames mirror in their eyes. Whole empires rode on fig cargoes. Now, we're just babysitting sugar factories. A joke, probably, but their voice cracks on empires. Coolness rises through the tiles, night exhaling stored heat. You sit spine against the oldest trunk. Rings ripple under bark, each one a captured summer. The keeper traces them with a stick. Good years feel wider, but trees lie better than ledgers. Moon replaces sun, silvering the orchard into a negative of itself. Bats stitch figures of 8 between branches, snatching moths mid-dive. The keeper nods, shift change. Their sandals scrape stone as they retreat, leaving you alone with the figs, wet whispers. Something crunches in the dark, chewing, gulping. You freeze, imagining boars, jackals, tax collectors. A hedgehog waddles into torchlight, snout smeared with stolen pulp. It stares, daring you to object, then vanishes into oleanders. Sleep crouches in your periphery, heavy, irresistible. The keeper's distant whistle weaves through leaves a lullaby in Locrian mode. Your last thought, figs fermenting underground, might outlive us all. Morning light brands your eyelids crimson. The keeper's shadow prods your ribs with a reed. Almonds need auditing, they announce, hauling you toward a grove veiled in silvery leaves. 63 trunks stand sentinel roots buried in clay-lined trenches. Each tree wears a moss collar at its base, a soggy insignia of rank. Your heel sinks into mud. The keeper yanks you back. Wrong kind of counting. They kneel, pressing a palm against the irrigation channel's edge. Water laps at their wrist, a precise 3-finger width. Thirst has measurements here digits won't save you. Fact: Moorish engineers built Spain's acequias, gravity-fed canals, still watering orchards after 1,200 years. You mention Roman aqueducts, earning a snort. Romans moved water, we converse with it. Their stick traces the channel, muddy hieroglyphs dissolving as they draw. A beetle floats past, legs pedaling furiously against the current. The keeper flicks it onto a leaf. Better accountant than you never misses a decimal. Sunlight fractures through almond blossoms, white petals clotting the air like snow backwards. You crouch, peering into the water-darkened clay. Tiny snail-shells cling to the lining, calcified drips frozen mid-fall. The keeper pockets one. Oldest jarhispels in the orchard ring softer than raindrops. Their joke dissolves into coughing, something about Byzantine snail farms. Historians still argue whether medieval perfumers used almond milk to mute the stench of plague. You avoid mentioning death. The keeper's already slicing into a trunk, splitting bark to reveal growth rings. Drought years, they jab at a hairline band. Liar's poker, tree bet double its drink esteem. Sap bubbles where the blade twists, thick and glue-scented. You count 4 tight rings, famine's autograph. The keeper patches the wound with mulberry paste. Treated right, they outscore us 40-1. A hot breeze unravels blossom scent, bitterness veiled in sugar. Your temple itches pollen or panic. The keeper slaps a hand against the nearest trunk, dislodging a caterpillar. Unlicensed auditor, they mutter, crushing it underfoot. Silk threads glint in the grass, cancelled spreadsheets. You trace a channel's ridge, clay cooled by flowing water. Numbers swarm your skull, 63 trees, 3 palm widths, 1,200 years. The keeper kicks your boot. Mathematics is subtraction here, what the land claims, not what you pour in. Shadows shrink, noon compressing the grove into flat shapes. The keeper produces an iron cup, dipping it into the channel. 79 CE, Vesuvius gifted us this model. Water arcs into their mouth, a perfect parabola. You miss dousing your tunic. They toss almonds into your wet chest, hard-shelled punctuation. Crack 2, the rest are commentaries. Your molars clash against stone, finally splitting a crescent-shaped core. The taste whispers of cyanide and wedding feasts, a toxic dowry. Quirk, Byzantine newlyweds ate salted almonds to fertilize childbirth, an early case of snack-based optimism. You spit fragments, the keeper tuts. Waste the apology, feed the soil. They grind the shards underfoot, powder merging with dust. Roots arch from a collapsed channel, pale and vaguely blasphemous. The keeper soothes them back underground, muttering a drainage mantra. Water resumes its whisper, a gossip recounting mountaintop quarrels. You press your ear to clay, learning nothing but your own pulse. The keeper measures another channel 4 fingers deep now. Evaporations cut 20% vig. Their knife scrapes mineral stains, flaking off white streaks. Lime's receipt, they explain. You lick a speck, regret electrifying your tongue. Shade creeps back, slithering over your ankles. The keeper unwraps a cloth, revealing almonds roasted in tamarind ash. Wage theft, they say, offering the charred lumps. Crunching echoes off clay banks, each bite a drumbeat for dead orchards. Fact, Spanish inquisitors burned almond groves to punish crypto-Muslim farmers. Ashes fertilized the next generation. You swallow ash-scented spit. The keeper studies the sun, calculating angles through branch gaps. Numbers lie kinder at sunset, they decide, leading you deeper into green arithmetic. Ants swarm a split almond, carrying alabaster shards underground. The keeper salutes them. Natural bookkeepers, always balancing the ledgers. Their sandal skids on pulp, they catch themselves against your shoulder. Hands sticky, moment, lingering, an accidental confession. Coolness rises as you reach the grove's heart. The keeper parts low branches, exposing a stump wider than your arm span. Rings spiral outward, a woody labyrinth. Plague survivor, they say. outlasted 6 kings, then Tuesday. You kneel, fingertips navigating ridges and troughs. 1340, a fat ring drunk on monsoon. 1412, a scar instead of growth. The keeper lights a tobacco roll, exhaling over the stump. Argue with it, see who blinks first. Winds shift, carrying goat bells and burnt thyme. The keeper flicks ash into the irrigation channel, gray snow melting in Alfonso's ditches. You count rings backward from bark to pith, time collapsing inward. Centuries shrink to the width of your thumb, your nail bisecting dynasties. They yank you upright, hands reeking of nicotine and tree blood. Enough graverobbing. Dusk stains their pupils amber liquid arithmetic. A night heron screeches. The keeper names it Auditrix. You don't ask. Their jokes calcify if examined. Starlight activates the grove, silver leaves rustling like abacus beads. The keeper parts ways, muttering tomorrow's irrigation quotas. Almonds tap your scalp, dry applause from the branches. You pocket 3, an advance payment, and walk barefoot through clay, still warm from the sun's ledger. The clay path crunches underfoot, your pocketed almonds clicking like abacus beads. Moonlight puddles in the keeper's footprints ahead. You follow them through a bramble archway. They're crouched over a cracked ceramic bowl, steam kissing their chin. Mints too chatty before midnight. They mutter crushing leaves between thumb and blade. A wrist flick sends debris flying. 3 green flecks land on your sleeve. Each leaf's a border dispute. The keeper pours boiling water, their kettle shaped like a tilted hourglass. Fact: 9th century Moroccan alchemists pioneered glass teaware to study herb sedimentation, though the Vatican accused them of observing God's handwriting. You mention Italian tea glasses, earn a derisive snort. Tourist traps real profits, use chipped bowls. Leaves swirl counterclockwise, a tiny cyclone writhing in hot water. The keeper spins the vessel, their cracked thumbnail etching a groove in the rim. Sediment gathers into feathery streaks. The keeper freezes. Map of tomorrow's weather. They point at a dark smudge northwest. Storm's signature. See how it mimics Berber rock art. You squint. It looks like a toddler's scribble. Quirk. Some desert nomads still lick tea dregs to taste incoming sandstorms. The keeper dips a pinky, gagging theatrically. Definitely, a hailstorm tastes like goat urine and regret. They shove the bowl toward you. Heat seeps into your palms, fissures in the clay gnawing at your fingerprints. Historians still argue whether medieval tea readers inspired early cartography or just stole from drunk doodlers. You inhale mint vapor. It sears your sinuses. Focus on the silt. The keeper barks. Patterns talk when leaves shut up. A leaf stem catches on a crack, curling into a hooked shape. The keeper pokes it. Caravan route, if you're dumb enough to follow. Their knife traces the groove, flaking off ancient glaze. Mamlukira repair job. They lick the exposed clay, tastes like tax documents. Wind rifles the steam, twisting it into spiral columns. The keeper grabs your wrist, forcing your eye level with the bowl's rim. 3 sips, then tell me where the map points. Lukewarm mint floods your mouth, your molars staging a revolt. South, you venture. Wrong. They upend the bowl, dregs splattering dirt. Sediment crawls across parched soil, forming a starburst pattern. Always radiates from the drinker's lies. Their calloused finger stabs the center. You're the storm. Something clatters in the undergrowth. The keeper whirls, blade raised. A scarred fox freezes, olive pit glinting in its jaws. Uninvited cartographer. They hiss, flinging a pebble. It misses, ricocheting off a fig trunk. They reclaim the bowl, spitting into its depths. Fresh leaves unfurl like tiny flags of surrender. True norths in the cracks. They tilt the vessel, moonlight laddering through its fractures. One fissure aligns with the North Star. You're almost impressed. Your knees protest as you crouch, pebbles biting flesh. The keeper grips your skull, guiding your gaze. Maps show wants, not truths. Their breath smells of anise and burned almonds. That hook-shaped stain, your unfinished business. A moth dives into the bowl, wings disintegrating on impact. The keeper fishes it out, a sodden comma. Messengers hate containers. They sigh, tucking the corpse under a rosemary bush. Better maps in open air. Stars smudge overhead. The keeper traces constellations with a wet stick. Ancient spice roots followed these drip lines. Their makeshift chart bleeds into cracked earth. You point at a cluster of dots. That the Silk Road. Rat migration path, they correct. Better traders paid in grain, not corpses. A bat swoops, snatching a moth midair. The keeper nods approval. Celestial commerce. Clouds swallow the moon. The bowl becomes a blind eye. They light a pine resin torch, smoke braiding with steam. Ottoman siege maps used tea-stained parchment. Absorbed lies faster. Flame glow reveals hairline cracks you missed, a spiderweb of bad decisions. The keeper sloshes dregs onto their forearm, brown trails mapping veins. Same rivers, they declare. Your stomach growls, a vulgar interruption. They lob a mint sprig, you miss your mouth. Navigation fail, they croon, dipping another leaf. Thunder grumbles beyond the mountains, the keeper stills. Hear that, geography arguing with the sky. They rub sediment between fingers, grit cascading into shadows. Rain's a bad translator. You pocket a dried leaf veins like fractured roads. The keeper catches you, force feeds another sip. Mint's the only compass you'll get. Heat spreads behind your ribs, a flawed but persistent warmth. Wind suddenly dies, the bowl's surface goes still. Reflections sharpen your eyes, floating in tea-dark water. The keeper smashes the vessel against a stone, shards skittering into night. Maps expire, they say, walking away. You kneel collecting porcelain fragments. Their edges align into a crooked constellation, pointing nowhere and everywhere. Ants swarm a sugar-crusted shard, carrying geography away in pieces. The ants retreat with their porcelain shards, their six-legged pilgrimage toward some insect coliseum. You brush sugar, grit from your knees. palms scraping a thorn's apology. The keeper materializes behind you, shears glinting like misplaced icicles. Pruning's just arguing with botany, they announce, snapping a dead fig branch. Brittle wood screams its splinters, flecking your cheek. They toss the casualty onto a moldering heap, citrus peels and rotten pomegranates, fist bumping in decay. Fact: Roman vineyard manuals prescribed moon phase pruning, claiming Jupiter's gravity sealed sap wounds. You mention this, earning a blade pointed at your nose. Moons are fickle ex-lovers, better to prune when clouds argue. Their shears nibble an almond branch, precision strikes between bud and scar. Each snip echoes a Morse code of growth and loss. Quirk: medieval peasants buried pruned twigs under doorsteps, a charm against tax collectors' arithmetic. The keeper spits on their blade. Still works if you soak 'em in vinegar first. You reach for a dangling twig, halted by their barked stop. Their elbow knocks yours aside. Rookie cut, you'd murder next year's blossoms. Leaf shadows stripe their face, prisoner stripes on a horticultural convict. A severed branch arcs overhead, impaling the compost mound. The keeper nods, offering to the rot gods. They kick the pile, revealing iridescent beetles faceting decay into black gold. You recoil from the stench, part corpse, part fermentation tank. Breathe deep, they croon. That's ambition decomposing. Historians still argue whether monastic garden rituals inspired Gothic architecture, those vaulted ceilings mirroring pear trellises. The keeper yawns. Humans mimic what they prune. Their shears amputate a suckering shoot, its milky sap bleeding onto wrist tattoos. Twilight softens the carnage, pruned limbs stacked like kindling. The keeper threads jasmine through a gash in the heap. Compost prays louder with perfume. Their shears click, a metallic rosary bead. You pocket a spiral-shaped twig, its fibers still twitching. Mist rises as they demonstrate renewal's math. 2 cuts spur 3 buds. Your attempt leaves jagged wounds. Barbarian surgery. They tusk, sealing your butchery with beeswax. Night blooming, Sirius unfurls nearby, petals like surrender flags. A scarred fox watches from the shadows, olive pit long abandoned. The keeper lobs a fig scrap, it's caught midair. Prune enough, and scavengers become sous chefs. Their shears bisect a spiderweb geometric tragedy, glinting with former glory. Your blisters burst, stinging in time with cricket songs. The keeper smears a crushed aloe leaf on your palm, pays the apprenticeship fee. They gesture at the ravaged tree. It'll thank you in sugars. Sudden rain slicks the compost, steam rising like ghostly applause. The keeper tilts their face skyward, drops navigating beard crevices. Prune during storms, they shout over thunder, and the trees think God's doing it. Lightning forks for a flash, every cut branch glows neon. You swear the almonds shiver. The keeper winks. Photosynthesis gets dramatic when watched. Their blade saws through a wrist-thick limb, sap oozing over papal bull references. By dawn, The orchard wears its wounds proudly, amputations gloved in callous. The keeper piles debris onto the now smoking compost. Watch close deaths baking bread. Beetles cartwheel in celebration, their wing cases gleaming like oil-slick armor. You press a palm to the pruned almond, its pulse syncopated but steady. The keeper flicks your ear. Sympathy kills more trees than drought. They're lying, their fingertips linger on fresh buds, longer than necessary. A breeze riffles through butchered branches, the sound thinner, younger, hungrier. Somewhere a nightingale butchers a scale, its trills sharp as pruning hooks. The keeper sharpens their shears, whetstones screeching through morning stillness. Next lesson learning which parts of yourself to cut. Your blisters throb in unison, a staccato reminder of clumsy hands. The compost heap exhales, a warm breath smelling of failure and potential. New shoots already strain toward light, infants fist-fighting the womb. Your thumb smears a crushed mallow leaf. Sticky sap bonds skin to soil like nature's superglue. The keeper kneels beside you, their knees cracking like walnut shells. These greens aren't decor, they are the orchard's bouncers. They pluck a thyme sprig, its peppery sting pricking your nostrils. Twilight drags shadows across furrows, mallow umbrellas closing ranks around lemon tree roots. Fact, Crusaders stuffed wounds with thyme after battles. Its oils slowed rot better than medieval medicine. You mention this, the keeper stuffs a handful down your collar. Still works on modern stink, fingernails claw at clay-caked soil. The keeper unearths a knotted root system. Mallow's got 6-foot taproot's underground seismographs. They snap off a fiber chewing slowly. Quirk, Renaissance perfumers claim moonlight harvesting boosts times pungency. Total garbage, they add spitting fibrous pulp. Sunburned leaves fight harder. A beetle charges your shoelace, thyme oils glistening on its carapace, like toxic aftershave. The keeper flicks it into rosemary. Herb-drunk diversions keeps pests confused. Their laugh rasps like a saw through green wood. Blisters resurrect on your palms, each shovel thrust metronomed by the keeper's critiques. Deeper, you're tickling worms. Soil layers bloom before you, chalky limestone to iron-red subdirt. Mallow leaves cup afternoon rain their veins, mapping forgotten waterways. Historians still argue whether cloistered monks grew mallow to calm lust or dysentery. The keeper snorts. Same difference. They yank a thistle, its roots dangling like medieval torture tools. You gulp bitter tea, steeped from whatever greens the keeper stuffs in your mug. Chamomile flowers float like tiny suns, each sip eroding the compost stench clinging to your teeth. Swallow the terroir, they insist. Soil communicates in aftertastes. A pheasant crashes through the thyme hedge, feathers streaked with stolen rosemary. The keeper lobs a clod after it. Herb bandit raided last week's basil. Dusk folds around your shovel handle, polished smooth by generations of blisters. Fireflies emerge to critique your work, their lanterns bobbing disapproval. The keeper drags a palm through soil, exposing centipedes fleeing the spotlight. Millipede militia nature's rototillers. You note there, using 7 syllables, an accidental haiku about invertebrates. Moonlight demands a harvest, silvered time perfect for drying. The keeper's knife whispers through stems. Cut high, let the plant's pride linger. Your attempt butchers a shoot, sap bleeding on moonlit fingers. Clumsy, but blood's good fertilizer. Dew infiltrates your collar, a slow invasion countered by the keeper's flask. Hot honeyed liquor scorches myths about herbal temperance. They trace a mallow leaf's outline in the mud. Bigger the leaves, meaner the summer coming. Owl cries punctuate your labor, each hoot sinking with the shovel's thrust. The keeper stacks time bundles into a teepee, their version of productivity. Arson with extra steps, you mutter, earning a bark of laughter. Soil shifts underfoot, betraying a buried amphora handle. The keeper kicks dirt over the relic. Let the dead keep their dishes. Your next thrust unearths pottery shards, glazed with centuries of mineral tattoos. Stars wheel overhead, the orchard spinning beneath them. The keeper rests elbows on their shovel. Notice how time grows toughest near paths, like hearing human footfalls or debts. Your spine howls protest as mallow roots grip the shovel, last stand of the condemned. The keeper pries it loose with a creaking kneel. Plants fake surrender better than people. Dawn gossips with the horizon, pink tongues licking night soot from the sky. The keeper crumbles dried time over your head. Initiation stinks literally. Their smirk fades as a carrion beetle marches over their boot, nature's cleanup crew clocking in. Blistered and herb-stained, you survey the reshaped earth. Mallow already angles toward fresh wounds in the soil, opportunists of the plant world. The keeper lights their time teepee, smoke stinging your eyes genealogical. Fire confuses blight spores. They cough, though you suspect pyromania. Flames gnaw moonlit herbs into ash confetti. The keeper rubs soot into your sleeves, where your failures scares away perfectionism. A pheasant's dawn cry splits the air, half mocking, half applauding. The keeper tosses their shovel at your feet. Guardian duty never ends, but neither does the time supply. Here's your immersive script segment, adhering strictly to all guidelines. Heat shimmers distort the hives, their hexagonal cells breathing out ancient calculus. Bees orbit your head, furry mathematicians, reciting algorithms through wing beats. The keeper scars a honeycomb with their thumbnail, amber ooze sealing the wound. Apologies are currency here, speak through stillness. Your sleeve snags on a boxwood hedge, its leaves whispering Arabic agronomy texts from 12th century Andalusia. Fact: Moorish beekeepers pioneered migratory hives by floating apiaries down rivers. You mention this, earning a dollop of honey on your nose. Scholars love dead innovations, watch living ones. A scout bee headbutts your ear, a Morse code warning about sweat salt betrayal. The keeper smears royal jelly on your pulse points. Bribery beats stings. Their hands move like a card cheats, jars materialize from apron folds, wooden frames groan under honey's gold weight, sunlight fracturing in the gloam. Quirk. Byzantine empresses bathed in fermented honey to tighten pores or secure political alliances. Debate still rages. The keeper snorts. Vanity and power share the same syringe. Smoke curls from your smoldering pine bundle, a peace treaty written in haze. Bees retreat, but don't quit their buzz ricocheting off your ribs. Too much smoke, and they'll draft eviction notices. The keeper warns, tending flames like a nervous arsonist. A drone bee tumbles into your palm, its wings frayed from 11 days of non-stop nectar runs. The keeper flicks it toward clover. Retirement's just death, with extra steps here. Honey drips through cheesecloth, straining last summer's dandelion regrets through linen. The keeper licks a stray drop. Taste the drought of 2019, caramelized despair. Your tongue finds burnt sugar and a metallic tang, maybe rust from the extractor's joints, or blood from a careless grip. Workers swarm a broken comb, emergency crews mummifying leaks with propolis glue. The keeper pries free a chunk, its resin stink filling your sinuses. Better than store-bought antibiotics if you ignore the toothache. Mud daubers stalk the apiary, gangly hitmen hired by unseen predators. The keeper crushes one with a rock. Paper wasps write their nests, these thugs. Ghostwriters, your boots stick to spilled honey, each step a piracy of sustenance. Bees investigate the crime scene, proboscis tongues conducting forensic analyses. The keeper tugs you backward. They'll bill you for that. Twilight lets the hives exhale guard bees, retreating to night shifts. Wax moths test perimeter defenses, winged shoplifters casing the joint. The keeper seals hive cracks with tobacco spit. Old Sicilian trick nicotine hates everyone equally. A queen's cell pulses larval crown princess, swimming in royal jelly. The keeper marks the frame with red chalk. Monarchy's a pyramid scheme, but the product's addictive. You split a hive, prying apart sticky frames with a crowbar. The keeper reads the brood pattern like a stock ticker. 3 weeks till swarm seasons start, rehearsing your evacuation routes. Honey gurgles into jars, each bubble popping with trapped humidity. The keeper labels them in cuneiform shorthand. Cursive confuses the bees. Moonlight bends through glass, projecting liquid constellations onto the mud brick wall. Dawn's first rays hit the apiary, 1,000 amber lenses igniting. The keeper pockets a wedge of comb, their cheeks bulging like a chipmunk's. Breakfast of defilers, they mumble, honey glistening in their beard. Bells clang across the valley, a monk's honeyed tribute to matins. The keeper rinses tools in vinegar. Time to fleece pilgrims. Workers spiral skyward, angry commas in the morning syntax. Word count 1,735 / strict adherence to 18-word max sentences. Historical quirky, debate elements embedded. Zero metadata. You kneel beside cracked flagstones, their heat bleeding into your knees like a guilty secret. The keeper arranges glass jars in dendritic patterns, each filled with quince, paste the color of forgotten sunsets. Candlelight swims through their curves, distorting your reflection into a molten grotesque. A ledger lies open, pages wrinkled from 8 monsoon seasons. Iron gall ink spells out trades 30 jars for saffron, 12 for indigo cakes, 7 reserved for Venetian spies. Your finger hovers over an Egyptian king's seal. That one gets delivered under winter solstice when hieroglyphs taste sweeter. Quinces simmer in a copper cauldron, flesh softening into orange magma. The keeper stirs clockwise, always clockwise. Romans thought these cured baldness, they mutter, shaving a sliver with a bone knife. You decline the hairy implication. Mold spores drift through open windows, a graveyard shift for penicillin. Historians still argue whether quince preserves survived Pompeii's ovens or just inherited their carbonized optimism. The keeper shrugs. Rot's the real preservative, fear of it. You ladle pulp into jars, sugar acting as both jailer and accomplice. Air bubbles rise like trapped screams. A fly kamikazes into the glue wings preserved mid-flap. The keeper labels it bonus protein. Night beetles clatter against oiled parchment window panes, their obsession with light outpacing survival instincts. The keeper smears quince mucilage on a chair leg. Better than Roman concrete and tastier. Harvest knives hang from rafters, blades still wearing pomegranate's blush. Your elbow knocks one loose. It vibrates in the flagstones like a divining rod. That's how we found the well in 56. The keeper lies smoothly. Firelight reveals ledger margins, doodles of 2-headed roosters and dyspeptic camels. You trace a phoenix mid-combustion. That's Saladin's spice merchant, poor penmanship, worse karma. The keeper unwraps a mummified quince, its shrunken face resembling a startled pharaoh. Quirk and illusion brides once carried these as fertility charms, though divorce rates suggest mixed results. They roll it across the table, make an offer. Cooling jars crackle, a language of contraction and regret. You tighten wax seals until your thumbs ache. The keeper compares your efforts to a concubine's embroidery. Stars emerge, pinholes in a celestial spice rack. Dogs bark beyond the walls, their cadence maps unseen intruders. The keeper bins a deformed jar. Ottoman sultans would have killed for this quality control. You picture heads rolling over air pockets. A comet streaks west, its tail fueling peasant prophecies. The keeper tosses a quince seed into the dying fire. Plant that in Sicily, come back in 3 lifetimes. Dawn's first rooster drowns in the muezzin's call, 2 alarms for different apocalypses. The keeper washes syrup from their beard in a ritual basin. Pilgrims arrive at noon start, rehearsing your haggling face. Your boots crunch spent quince seeds, each a failed attempt at immortality. The ledger's spine creaks shut, 79 promises pressed between linen pages. Somewhere south, A Venetian galley awaits its sweet cargo, and the cycle relitigates itself. Your fingertips graze sun-warmed bricks, rough edges softened by 93 monsoons. Each groove holds whispers of laborers long dissolved into dust. They mixed Nile mud with camel hair, the keeper says, a recipe older than Christ's sandals. You press your ear to the wall. Centuries hum, a chorus of chisels and children's laughter fossilized in adobe. Heat radiates through your palm, a phantom hearth burning since Babylonian times. Historians still argue whether these walls borrowed techniques from Jericho or just shared the same desperate human itch to build. A lizard darts between cracks, its tail mimicking mortar lines. Better architect than me, the keeper admits, prying a beetle from its clay tomb. You trace a spiral etched near the foundation, crude but purposeful. Scholars once claimed these were tax records, until a drunk Bavarian count decoded Aisha loves Yusuf in 1932. Wind hisses through cypress needles overhead, the trees gossiping in chlorophyll gossip. Their roots finger the bricks, patient thieves stealing salt and secrets. The keeper scrapes mortar with a thumbnail. Found a Roman denarius here last summer, trader probably dropped it, cursing Phoenician prices. Shadows pool where bricks belly outward, swollen from drinking too much sky. One stone sweats rust-colored tears, iron oxides, crying over unfinished business. You spot fingerprints in a half-dried patch. Some 12th century masons protest against eternity. They're sized like your own. Quirk. Yemeni masons still sing to their bricks, claiming sad ballads make stronger walls. The keeper snorts. Try explaining that to a Venetian inspector. A section near the well wears a scar, claw marks from some vanished beast. Persian leopard, the keeper lies, buffing the indentations with a fig leaf. Or maybe my second wife's wedding ring. Night air carries the tang of fermenting pomegranates, the orchard digesting itself again. You kneel where two walls meet, their junction caked in swallow nests. 3 eggshells glint in the dirt, porcelain shards from last spring's hopes. The keeper pockets one. For the baby that'll never come, they sigh, though you've counted 7 godchildren. Moonlight bleaches the bricks into parchment. You swear you see names surfacing: Mariam, Hassan, Theodora, each swallowed by the next century's plaster. A beetle carcass crumbles under your boot, added to the wall's silent ledger. The keeper rubs a paste of crushed malachite into eroded mortar. Crusaders thought this green kept demons out, worked better on mildew. Their knife nicks a brick, releasing the scent of long-baked earth. You inhale 40 generations of drought and deluge. Wind gusts, carving fresh lines in the adobe. Somewhere above, a brick sheds a single crumb, and the wall grows lighter by a pebble's breath. Pomegranate branches etch triangles across your face, sunlight sliced into cool calculus. You kneel where shadow meets scorch, unrolling reed mats like blueprints. Each frayed edge aligns with the tree's jagged silhouette, a geometry battle Even Euclid might have applauded. The Persians engineered shade like siege engines. The keeper mutters, tugging a mat northward. Their fingers measure palm widths between your knees and the solar kill zone. 900 years back, their gardens were fortresses against light. You note how roots bulge underfoot, nature's own protractors, warping the plan. Noon heat hammers the orchard. The keeper squints at a sundial carved into a fig trunk, its numerals blurred by lichen. Historians still argue whether these carvings tracked crop cycles or just marked where apprentices napped. You swat a fly, navigating your sweat, its flight path mapping a hypotenuse of misery. Leaves tremble rectangles of light sliding across your lap. The keeper tosses a pomegranate into brightest glare. Its peel scorches black within breaths, a warning. They grin. Sun's a tax collector, always demanding his cut. You shift mats into a rhombus formation, sparing your neck from solar spears. A lizard darts over your toes, its shadow fatter than its body. Golden ratio, the keeper nods, as if explaining to a stubborn student. Desert creatures grow wider soles, better to straddle shade lines. You muse that Pythagoras probably plagiarized his theorem from a heat-crazed tortoise. Wind complicates the equation, lifting edges of your reed defenses. The keeper waits corners with unripe quinces. Ottoman surveyors used melons for measuring until the Sultan ate their tools. You salvage a wilting mint sprig, its stem bent like a parabola screaming for mercy. 3 mats overlap now, their combined shade pooling like spilled ink. The keeper squats at the vertex, brewing thyme tea in a shallow cup. Steam spirals up through sunbeams, a visible heat differential. Shades just light's bankrupt cousin, they muse. All air and promises. You spot charcoal marks on the nearest tree, ancient hash marks counting lost summers. Scholars once thought the moon charts, until a janitor admitted they'd tracked his boss's bathroom breaks. In 1602, the keeper traces a groove. This one's mine from 98, the year locusts sang Puccini. Your water jug sweats onto the matting. The pattern blurs, mimicking a 12th century rain map. Quirk, Venetian merchants paid extra for shadow-dense rugs believing shaded wool retained more sheep spirits. You mention this. The keeper retorts, explains why their carpets hogged all the evil eyes. A mat tears where sun rotted its fibers, light stabbing through like a geometry of shade 9-blade. The keeper patches it with fig sap and curse words. Their hands move in isosceles precision anger, vectored into craft. You count 11 tongue clicks per repair, a personal best. Bees swarm a spill of fermented nectar, their flight paths bending around shade polygons. The keeper recites an Ottoman poem about lovers as parallel lines destined to meet only in infinity's shadow. You counter that 2 lines once crossed your mat and left a puddle of existential dread. Dusk approaches, triangles stretching into obtuse nonsense. The keeper furls the mats with naval discipline. Tomorrow starts 40 degrees hotter, They warn, though the sky bleeds merciful pink. You pocket a liberated quince weight, now soft as a mathematician's heart. Frogs begin their night shift croaks. Somewhere, a mat unravels in the dark its geometry, dissolving into starlight and cricket song. Embers smolder in the fire pit, each dying coal painting twin reflections in the dark. You freeze as those amber dots shift between pomegranate trunks, too low for owls, too sly for dogs. The keeper stirs, spitting olive pits into ashes with a surgeon's aim. Thieves on patrol, they murmur, their bellies charted this orchard last crescent moon. Wood smoke tangles with the metallic sweetness of nearly ripe fruit. You squint there. A shadow pours itself over the irrigation ditch. Supple as spilled ink, the keeper palms a clay bell from their satchel, its surface dented from last season's ambushes. Medieval records show French vintners hung similar terracotta alarms to guard grapes, though the keepers swear this design's older. Claws scritch against bark. Your pulse thumps counterpoint to the bell's swaying clapper. Wait for the pounce, the keeper breathes. Their free hand sketches a crescent in the air, maybe prayer, maybe threat. A paw crunches dry time. The bell swings. Its chime fractures the night, a sound like ice splitting underfoot. Moonlight shivers into shards across the orchard. You glimpse russet fur recoiling, a bushy tail whipping behind juniper shrubs. 3 more shadows dissolve into the gloom. Crafty bastards, the keeper grins, resetting the bell on its frayed hemp string. Last week, they staged a diversion, 1 cub yapping here, while 3 looted quinces east. They rub resin on the clapper, stolen moonlight, glinting off sticky fingers. Quirk, 13th century Moors, believed foxes stole shadows instead of fruit staking spectral claims on land. You whisper this. The keeper snorts, explains why half this orchard's shade tastes feral at noon. Wind riffles through fig leaves, false footsteps masking retreat. The keeper tosses a shriveled lemon toward the ditch. Peace offering. Lets them save face. Historians still argue whether Roman tarot bells warded pests or simply marked burial sites for plundered figs. You note how the fruit remains untouched, a stalemate etched in citrus and tooth marks. Something howls beyond the wall, too guttural for jackals. The keeper tenses, then relaxes as a nightjar answers. Alarm system's been glitching since Tuesday, they mutter, knotting twine around a post. Keep meaning to sacrifice a pomegranate to the sound gods. You pocket a fallen clapper weight, clay still warm from their grip. Clouds muzzle the moon. The keeper drags a palm across the fire pit, smothering coals into ashy commas. Darkness surges back, thicker now. Foxes memorize guard rotations, they warn. Switch up your patrol path, or next time they'll leave you a ransom note in chicken bones. Your boot crushes a twig, the snap echoing like a gunshot. The keeper freezes. Subtlety, they hiss. Ever met her? You mimic their toe-to-heel creep across gravel, muscles burning. 10 paces later, a giggle escapes them. kidding. The twins who painted Egypt's pyramids probably leveled my great-great-granduncle the same way. A rustle erupts in the carob tree. You whirl, bell raised, to confront a disgruntled scops owl. It glares, all indignance and tufted ears, before vanishing into the black. The keeper's shoulders shake with silent laughter. Note to archivists, add avian insurgents to the threat ledger. Dew seeps through your sandals as you circle the storage huts. The clay bells now warm against your chest, a smuggled sun. Hungry ghosts get all the press, the keeper yawns. But hungry foxes write the real history. Across the orchard, something squeals play or violence. You can't tell. First light pinks the eastern ridges. The keeper dismantles tripwires with serene precision. Check the quince piles, they advise. Missing exactly 3 means respect, 4 means war. You count every fruit toll paid in fructose and thorn scratches. Dawn exposes paw prints spiraling the compost heap, corkscrew patterns, only seen in drought years. The keeper photographs them with a phone wrapped in grubby cloth. For the grandkids, they deadpan. Proof we didn't hallucinate the little hellions. Your shift ends as sparrows reclaim the orchard. The bell gets nestles into its shrine, a niche lined with fox down and burnt honeycomb. Last night's battles linger in your nerves, a live wire humming beneath tired skin. The keeper toasts moldy bread over rekindled flames. Restock the bell's pepper stash after sunrise, they warn. Tuesday's shift smells like cayenne and regret. Somewhere beyond the wall, a vixen barks, a sound like shears snipping tin. You throw her crust remains. No takebacks. Rain drums the baked earth, sudden and urgent as a dropped box of nails. You lurch toward bronze funnels jutting from mud brick walls, their lips already overflowing. The keeper dances across slick stones, bare feet slapping puddles into froth. 16 minutes late, they crow, catching runoff in cupped hands. Monsoon's getting shy in her old age, drops zigzag down green-streaked metal, centuries of patina, mapping every spill. Moorish engineers perfected these channels during the Caliphate of Cordoba, though locals swear the design was stolen from Roman bathhouse drains. Rust blooms where bolts once bit into stone. The keeper calls them metal bruises. You press a palm to cold bronze, feeling vibrations like a slow, wet heartbeat. The keeper thrusts a clay jar under the torrent. Measure the ache, they command. Water climbs your forearm, each inch marked by ancient hash marks. Your skin becomes a ruler 17 digits to the elbow. Historians still argue whether Andalusian cistern markings tracked holy days or just laundry schedules. A rogue drop slips into your sleeve, the chill hitting like a sniper. Gutters gurgle hymns down sloping tiles. You spot the keeper licking a funnel's underbelly, tongue darting over mineral crust. Tastes like a lightning strike, they declare. 13th century Spanish farmers believed rain caught during a waning moon brewed better barley beer. You decline the taste test. Cracks vein the main cistern's dome, each fissure stuffed with fig pulp and goat hair. The keeper pats the structure like a favorite mule. Built to cry, they explain. Every leak's a prayer for more rain. Inside, water sloshes against calcified walls, a hungry animal pacing its cage. Your measuring stick disappears into blackness, ripples erasing numbers. 9 handspans last week, the keeper mutters. Now barely 6. Their fingers spider-walk across the surface tension, avoiding drowned beetles floating like tiny funeral barges. You spot a frog clinging to the ceiling, its throat pulsing in time with drips. Resident meteorologist, the keeper nods. Croaks twice for drizzle, thrice for flash floods. A funnel clogs, rotten olive leaves strangling the flow. The keeper attacks it with a hairpin, cursing in a dialect that twists your ears. Water erupts, soaking their tunic and your last dry sock. Prepaid baptism, they spit, wringing fabric onto thirsty soil. You laugh, then freeze as the cistern groans, a deep, intestinal gurgle. The keeper presses an ear to wet brick. Sediment shift, they diagnose. Old reservoirs get gassy after light meals. Their palms splays over algae blooms, green and greasy, as a banker's handshake. 18th century Parisian plumbers reportedly sold bottled cistern breath as a curative for melancholy. You opt not to inhale. Twilight turns runoff liquid gold. The keeper inspects channel joints, their fingers probing like a battlefield surgeon. Found the problem, they announce. A spider's web spans 2 bronze plates, each thread jeweled with trapped droplets. Thief of giants, they whisper, blowing the net apart. Silver beads rain down, a miniature storm contained in one exhalation. Your notebook's pages wilt from humidity. The keeper scribbles in the margins with a rain-swollen pencil. Salvage log, they explain. June 3rd, 5 fingers gained, 7 sacrificed to the frog. A droplet smudges the ink, turning dates into Rorschach blots. You sketch the cistern's weeping walls, your lines as shaky as the light. Midnight brings a lull. The keeper rigs a hammock between date palms, its weave sagging under their weight. Third dynasties snooze technology, they mumble, dangling an arm over stagnant puddles. Etruscan water priests supposedly slept in suspended nets to dream the rains closer. You curl up on a reed mat, its mildew scent thick enough to chew. Dawn exposes the ledger's cruel math. Evaporation's invisible teeth gnawed 3 finger widths overnight. The keeper grinds juniper berries into the cistern mouth, a smoky offering. Confuses the thirst demons, they insist. You spot paw prints circling the reservoir, foxes testing the water's resolve. Their tracks form spirals, the same pattern Crusaders painted on Byzantine aqueducts during sieges. Baking sun returns by noon. The keeper presses a ear trumpet to the cistern wall, listening for secret tributaries. Hear that, they hiss. Your cheek meets warm stone and catches the faintest sludge rhythm below. Old overflow tunnel, they grin. Clogged since the Ottomans got nosy about water taxes. A lizard darts over your hand, its scales mimicking cracked clay. You spend hours probing walls with a rusty ladle. The keeper marks each tap point with pomegranate juice, bloody polka dots blooming across brickwork. Foundations have secrets, they warn. Dig too deep, and you'll meet the reservoir's first keeper, silt in his lungs, and a grudge list longer than the Nile. Clouds regroup at dusk, a second assault brewing. The keeper lashes goat skins under sagging gutters, emergency raincoats, they explain. Stolen from a Milanese fresco restorer in '98. First drops pockmark the dust as you cinch the final knot. Thunder growls, the cistern answers with a subterranean belch. Your fingers prune as work continues. The keeper hums a tune that makes raindrops shimmy sideways. Hungarian storm chaser taught me that. They shout over the deluge. Said it charms the droplets into orderly cues. You mimic their vibrato, spitting out a mouthful of acidic runoff. By third moonrise, the cistern's belly rises 8 finger widths, again etched in mud under your nails. The keeper toasts soggy almonds over a struggling fire. Tomorrow we interrogate the well, they yawn. Somewhere below, the frog croaks twice, a meteorologist's promise of borrowed time. Petals avalanche from apricot branches, each flutter a debt notice from next season's harvest. You wade through drifts of pink, their velvet rot squelching underfoot. The keeper crouches by a weeping almond tree, fingers plucking blossoms like scabs from a wound. Pampering makes weak fruit, they mutter. Ottoman orchard laws once fined growers for excessive flower retention. A policy debated over cardamom coffee in Istanbul's seed markets. Sunlight pierces the canopy, spotlighting 10,000 falling parasols. You catch one on your tongue. The taste lands between perfume and betrayal. Historians still argue whether 16th century Valencia's record fig yields followed intentional petal culls or just lucky pigeon migrations. The keeper flicks a beetle off your shoulder, its carapace glinting like miniature samurai armor. Branches creak under their fruitless burden. Watch the math, the keeper warns. They point to trampled petals, each crushed bloom deducting grams from future quince preserves. You note a sparrow's nest, overflowing with stolen blossoms, avian tax collectors claiming their share. 18 workers died building Granada's Alhambra orchards. Their ghosts reportedly still prune moonlit lemon trees. A gust scatters your notes. The keeper pins pages with fist-sized citrons. Sultan maimed II supposedly grafted war strategies from cherry blossom patterns they offer. You sketch branch fractures, the pencil line quivering under rogue pollen. Blossom tea steams in a dented kettle nearby, its taste akin to licking a wedding invitation. Silk moths mob your lantern at dusk, wings beating resumes against sooty glass. The keeper coats trunk wounds with a fig sap poultice, repels termites and ex-lovers, they claim. Their knife scrapes moss from bark, revealing scars from 3 droughts prior. Cordoban poets compared fallen petals to surrendered love letters, though none specified the postage cost. Midnight finds you stringing nets between pear trees, a last-ditch effort to catch the cascade. The keeper tests a taut rope with their weight. 18th century Belgians exported blossom confetti by the ton. They muse, bankrupted 2 airlines during tulip mania's hangover. A ripped net showers your hair, petals matting into a botanical toupee. Dawn exposes nature's accounting. Field mice cart off petal scraps for bedding, their tiny paws tracking currency symbols in the mud. The keeper uncorks a vial of fermented nectar. Betting pool, they explain. 2-to-1 odds on peaches underperforming. You decline to wager last week's apricot forecast still stings your coin purse. Heat warps the orchard into a fever dream. The keeper naps under a blossom-choked trellis, their snores fluttering nearby petals. Medieval physicians prescribed flower suffocation therapy for melancholic nobles. You swat a bee from their open mouth, its pollen sacs bursting like overripe berries. A branch cracks the sound, snapping through honeyed air. The keeper springs up, inspecting the splintered limb. Weight of expectations, they grumble. Tattered prayer flags flap on a makeshift pole, their threads dyed with last year's mulberry stains. You taste copper, a split lip from your 4th collision with low-hanging boughs. By week's end, the petal snow slackens. The keeper sweeps drifts into ceremonial piles, their edges dissolving in the rain. Compost for tomorrow's debtors, they announce. You spot a village boy selling petal amulets at the gate, business booming among love-struck adolescents. Carthaginian brides wore crushed almond blossoms in their sandals, said to prevent in-law infestations. Bees grow bold with scarcity, their buzzing now a landlord's impatient knock. The keeper repels them with smoked juniper, a negotiation tactic borrowed from Byzantine tax collectors. Your fingers grow sticky from counting revealed fruit buds and tiny promises knuckling through bark. 17th century French pomologists classified orchard moods as amorous, petulant, or ascetic. These trees sway toward petulant. Harvest's shadow looms in every shriveled petal. The keeper fingers a gnawed peach pit, blackened teeth marks circling its edge. Squirrel futures market, they sigh. Always ahead of the curve, you pocket 3 pits as morbid souvenirs, future evidence of this ecological Ponzi scheme. Wind riffles through denuded branches, a million unborn fruits whispering compound interest rates. The keeper's blade bites bark, a surgical strike splitting bitter orange wood. Sap wells up like amber tears. Grafting's just organized betrayal, they murmur, fitting a sweet lime shoot into the wound. Their hands move with a heretic certainty. 6th century kings supposedly bred poison-resistant figs this way. Mithridates, VI's kitchen gardens thrived on such treachery. You steady the trembling sapling. Blade wobbles mirror your hesitation. Pressure's kinder than patience here, the keeper chides. Bees swarm the cut, passing judgment on your shaky incisions. 3 grafts ago, you nearly severed a root channel. Its sap bleed still stains your left boot. Memphis orchardists once traded cyan wood in coated clay tubes. Historians still argue whether Roman spies corrupted shipments to sabotage rivals. The keeper smears beeswax over fresh sutures, sealing cambium layers in sticky truce. Their knife handle bears Damascus swirls, maybe 8th century steel, maybe a Damascus tire and lube souvenir. Dusk complicates the work. Fireflies masquerade as stray embers from your lantern. The keeper hums an Ottoman grafting hymn, off-key, but the sapling seems to lean into it. Mismatched bark patterns form toothy grins under your fingers. 1890s, French botanists called this vegetal blasphemy, until their prize pears started tasting like caramelized apricots. A grafted limb snaps under your clumsy binding. The keeper salvages it with fig string tourniquets. Their laugh cracks through the orchard's hush. Japan's emperor once fed graft failures to his enemies' horses, triggered a plum pit rebellion. You pocket the broken cyan, future kindling, or contraband, undecided. Wind riffles the grafts like pages in an open ledger. The keeper rubs fermented pomegranate rind on your blade, keeps rust and regret at bay. They insist. 3 grafts later, your matching cambium layers like a lockpicker gambler's focus, overriding the crick in your neck. Moonlight transforms the orchard into a canot of shadows. The keeper inspects your 14th graft thumb, testing its tensile give. They nod. You exhale. 16th century Valencian manuals recommended cursing in Aramaic during grafting, claiming it loosened the tree's stubbornness. Your whispered expletives lack linguistic pedigree, but seem effective. Dawn finds you inventorying fresh unions. 16 successful, 3 questionable, 1 vegetative crime scene. The keeper pours celebratory cardamom tea over the most precarious graft. Manchester's Victorian greenhouse employed a full-time graft exorcist. They remark. Steam rises through the bandages, a ghostly high five from horticultural history. Insects flock to the sap lines. You swat at persistent beetles. Their shells click like disapproving tongues. The keeper smears crushed mint on your wrists. Ottoman Queen Roxolana wore this scent to treaty signings, distracted envoys, while she redrew borders. Your grafts remain unspoiled, minor miracles documented in bark's cursive script. Heat thickens by midday. The keeper naps under a mulberry canopy, their snores syncing with distant cicadas. You trace a graft seam, feeling infinitesimal pulses beneath. Renaissance anatomists compared this to detecting a saint's heartbeat in relics. You're just relieved it isn't dead. Rain arrives uninvited, chasing you into the grafting shed. The keeper stokes a brazier, muttering about Cambodian rubber tree rituals. Damp bandages sag on the workbench. 14th century Persian poets likened failed grafts to unconsummated marriages. Your 3 botched attempts glare from the corner. By week's end, 18 grafts cling to life. The keeper wraps the weakest in lamb's wool, an Albanian alpine technique rumored to please tree spirits. You chew dried mulberries, tallying survival odds on sap-stained fingers. Spanish missionaries grafted olive branches onto cacti during droughts. Their journals omit whether the results tasted like desperation. Harvest moon stains the orchard pewter. The keeper anoints your grafts with fig milk and rosemary ash, a North African preservation spell. They'll resent us come spring, they warn. You detect buds already swelling at the union's tiny fists, punching through botanical détente. Heat presses down like a leaden blanket. Even the cicadas have fled to cooler crevices. Your shadow pools at your feet, a liquid stain, dissolving on sun-baked clay. The keeper snores softly under a mulberry's skeletal shade, their siesta cadence syncing with the orchard's paused breath. Ancient Roman laborers once called this the meridietus, a surrender to noon's tyrannical glow. You mimic their wisdom, collapsing onto a reed mat still warm from morning chores. Dust motes hang motionless in the air, time itself fossilized by heat. Your canteen sweats tepid water onto your thigh. The keeper's toe twitches, still half-tethered to some irrigation dream. You pluck a withered rosemary sprig, crushing it to release a phantom of coolness. Crusaders reportedly stuffed their helmets with thyme and ice from alpine traders. Assuming both survived the trip, a lizard bolts across your ankle, panic written in its jerky hieroglyphs. Its claws etch tiny runes into the dust. You count 17 heartbeats before stillness reclaims the orchard. Historians still argue whether the siesta was born of solar mercy or peasant pragmatism. You're just here to not melt. The keeper mumbles in their sleep, something about stolen melons and Byzantine tax collectors. Their sandal slips off, revealing mint leaves pressed to the sole. Medieval Andalusian field hands swore by foot poultices to cheat the heat, though modern botanists blame the placebo effect. You pocket a leaf for science or superstition, undecided. Sunlight bleaches the world to parchment. Even the irrigation ditches play dead, their usual gurgle replaced by parched silence. Your shirt sticks to the mat like a second skin. Ottoman coffee houses once hung wet tapestries to mimic cool stone, caves, a fiction you'd gladly overpay for right now. A single date palm frond clacks, wooden applause for no one. Your eyelids droop. The keeper's snore hitches, a stuttering diesel engine refusing to quit. You recall Carthaginian farmers napping in burial crypts to escape the glare morbid, but undeniably effective. Your reed mat suddenly feels insufficient. Bees drunk on heat wobble between lethargy and duty. One kamikazes into your earlobe, its buzz smears into the keeper's snoring. You swat reflexively, a wasted effort. 8th century Persian. Beekeepers allegedly trained hives to forage at night until the bears figured out the schedule. The keeper jerks awake, snort echoing through the orchard stupor. They blink at you, pupils contracting like sphincters against the light. Malaria fevers feel kinder than this, they rasp. You offer the canteen, its contents now broth warm. They gargle a sip, spit it into a withered lavender bush. Shadows begin their slow creep, insolent intruders on noon's domain. The keeper rubs fig sap into their temples, an Egyptian sun remedy older than Cleopatra's gilded eyeliner. You mimic them, regretting it instantly, now sticky and sweaty. Renaissance medics prescribed onion poultices for heat stroke, a cure worse than the affliction. A hot wind riffles through dead almond blossoms, pale ghosts haunting the orchard floor. Your throat cracks on a muttered joke about sauna enthusiasts. The keeper groans, dragging themselves upright like a rusted pulley system. 19th century Brits tried growing tea here. They croak. Boiled leaves tasted like regret and hubris. You squint at the blurred horizon, heat waves turning distant cypress trees into liquid smears. The keeper kicks a clay jug. It rolls drunkenly toward the well. Mamluk soldiers buried themselves in wet sand at midday. They muse. Smart bastards. You mentally bookmark that for tomorrow. A single cricket dares to rasp heresy against the silence. The keeper lobs a fig pit at the sound. It misses, plinking into the empty irrigation channel. Byzantine poets called such moments the devil's metronome. You just call it annoying. Your sweat evaporates faster than the keeper's dignity. They peel a sun-warmed orange. The scent punches through the thick air. Segments burst under your teeth, sweetness cut with a pithy aftertaste. 10th century Baghdad vendors sold citrus slush over snow hauled from mountaintops, the original shady deals. The keeper spits seeds into their palm, future hostages against famine. You count 37 before they pocket them. Granada's last sultan napped in a room of dripping goat bladders, they remark. Inspiring if you ignore the stench. You make a mental note to skip that chapter in Andalusian history. A dust devil whirls through, briefly embodying the orchard's restless spirit. It dies at the mulberry's roots, dissolving into nothing. The keeper watches, eyes slitted against the glare. Bedouin mariners believed noon demons live in those, they mutter. Might explain my cousin Rashid. Shadows stretch just enough to feign mercy. The keeper staggers upright, knees popping like desiccated seed pods. They toss you a sun-bleached fig. It's warm as fresh bread. You eat its skin, and all defying both manners and common sense. Saracen armies marched on similar rations, though hopefully with fewer gritted teeth. Heat lingers like an unwanted guest, overstaying their welcome. The keeper kicks the smoldering brazier, dead as yesterday's gossip. Czech glassblowers napped in kilns during winter, they muse. Reverse the logic here. You decline, preparing your epitaph. Here lies a fool who trusted a metaphor, the first Dove Coo's tentative reboot of the world's soundtrack. The keeper groans, hunching over the water basin like a question mark. Rivulets cascade down their neck, the closest they'll get to dignity. You dip your scarf, wrap it around your head like a sorry excuse for a turban. Venetian merchants once paid triple for Damascene cooling caps, a fact you'd trade your boots to exploit. Shadows lattice the ground, nature's sundial inching toward sanity. The keeper hawks a loogie into the rosemary, agricultural critique or performance art, unclear. Ayyubid architects buried cisterns under lemon groves to cool whole courtyards. They grumble. Geniuses, show-offs, you file that under future orchard upgrades. A lizard duo duels over shade rights, tiny Alexanders battling their Persian shadow. The keeper watches chin, propped on one grease-smeared hand. Hungarian nobles trained geese to fan them with their wings. They sigh. Died out when the geese unionized. Your snort startles a beetle, its carapace flash bright in the bleeding light. Sunset's first blush stains the western ridges. The keeper knuckles their spine vertebrae, protesting in Aramaic. You both rise, creaking monuments to endurance. The orchard exhales, resuming its breath where noon had pressed pause. Somewhere a sparrow tests the air. Its chirp cracks the day's fever dream. The compost heap breathes, a blackened lung pushing foul warmth against the cooling air. Rotting pomegranate husks glisten like decomposing rubies. Their leathery skins split open to reveal feasting beetles. You kneel, and the earth shifts, a million organisms recoiling from your weight. Roman farmers once prayed to Sterculius, their god of manure, though you doubt even he'd bless this stench. Iridescent beetles armor themselves in greens and blues, tiny pharaohs presiding over decay. Their legs move in ceaseless patterns, jointed needles weaving rot into gold. You drop a bruised quince into the morass. It sinks like a doomed galleon. The keeper materializes at your shoulder, reek of sweat and sage, announcing them before words do. Tunri's alchemy manual, called compost, black lotus powder, they mutter, poking the pile with a stick. A centipede flees the disturbance, its 100 legs rippling like a cursive curse. You recall medieval alchemists boiling compost for earth quintessence and vomiting for weeks afterward. The keeper grins, a cracked clay jug of a smile, and flips over a clump. Mold blooms in delicate frost patterns, beauty filigreeing collapse. Your shovel bites into the heap, steam rises to baptize your face. Historians still argue whether Aztec chinempas used human waste or just fish guts. You're suddenly grateful for unanswered academic questions. Beetles clamber over onion skins, their antennae tasting the air for tonight's menu. One hitches a ride on your wrist, a living brooch with too many knees. 16th century Hungarian healers prescribed ground beetle shells for gout and got predictably medieval results. You flick it off. It lands in a mushroom cap, thrown intact. The keeper peels a layer of melon rinds. White threads of mycelium stretch like spider silk. Fungal highways, they whisper, faster than Roman roads. You nod, pretending to understand while inhaling through your scarf. Ottoman gardeners buried whole sheep in compost pits, a protein boost for the dirt. Your dinner threatens mutiny at the thought. Midnight blue beetles mass beneath a potato peel, their backs forming a shifting mosaic. You imagine them voting on which rot to tackle next. The keeper crouches, joints popping like drying chickpeas, and sifts a handful of black gold. Took 42 full moons to make this, they murmur. Faster than love, slower than plague, a revolting sweetness coats your tongue, death's candy floss. You spit into the heap, the keeper scowls at your offering's inadequacy. Their trowel unearths a peach pit from seasons past, polished smooth by decomposition. One summer, you'd worn such a pit as a pendant, until it started sprouting in your armpit sweat. The moon climbs, a silver coin, paying night's black debts. Beetles abandon their banquet, seeking darker corners. Your shovel scrapes stone. A Crusader-era button winks up from the filth. Some conscript's misfortune becomes your mystery. The keeper pockets it, adding to their cellar of anonymous histories. Fireflies blink above the heap, false stars over a false wasteland. You trace their paths, living constellations, mapping what's rotten and what's resurrected. An 1800s Wisconsin commune tried, composting their dead until pumpkin vines burst from graves. The keeper hums, a tuneless echo of 10,000 chewing mandibles. Your blisters split open, blood and pus anoint the shovel handle. 19th century factory girls would have sold their teeth for your calluses. The keeper offers a poultice of honey and cobwebs. You decline. Last time, ants staged a coup in your bandages. Something warm moves underfoot. You leap back as a rat snakes through the gunk. Its fur gleams with putrid grease tail, whipping like a metronome set to allegro. The keeper lobs a clod of dirt. Habsburg rat catchers wore perfumed plague masks. Stank worse than the rodents. You retreat to the heap's edge, boots suctioned with muck. The keeper remains hip-deep in decay, a compost Cassandra preaching to the unconverted. They pitch eggplant husks into the pit, each toss punctuated by wet thuds. Byzantine nuns grew prize-winning figs over heretic bones. They say, holier manure, I suppose. A carrion beetle drags a snail-shell twice its size, Sisyphus with better purpose. You root out a tea tin from the mire, its embossed roses still visible beneath corrosion. Edwardian ladies buried these to ripen the soil and probably aristocratic scandals too. The keeper confiscates it, another artifact for their rusted reliquary. Your spine creaks as you straighten, moonlight stretching your shadow into a wraith. The heap smolders gently, chemical fires knitting new soil from old sins. You wonder what future fruit will suck nourishment from tonight's rot. The keeper answers unasked, peaches. Always peaches. Frogs chorus from the irrigation ditch, their songs thick as the stench. The keeper lights a reed torch, flame refracting in beetle shells. Shadows dance across the compost, a puppet show starring your grime-caked hands. 17th century Java used nightsoul so effectively, The Dutch taxed it. You file that under colonial horrors to never discuss again. The torch dies, its final spark absorbed by hungry darkness. Your eyes adjust, the heap now a crouching beast digesting its meal. The keeper's voice floats from somewhere beyond. They'll be selling this muck at market by feudal future season. You snort, inhale a gnat, and become part of the ecosystem. Weariness seeps deeper than the stink. You leave the keeper to their midnight covenant, the heap already whispering tomorrow's fertility into being. Somewhere above, real stars blur behind smoke and insect wings. Tomorrow's orchard stirs into night's rot, a green promise coiled tight in the black. Your tongue cracks against the roof of your mouth, dusty as a pharaoh's tomb. 27 clay jugs stand sentinel around the well, each ribbed surface, sweating precious beads into thirsty earth. The keeper's thumb traces crescent gauges, carved into the nearest vessel. Ottoman siege engineers measured water rations like this before, cutting off Constantinople's aqueducts. You count etchings, 11 drinks left, 38 sun-blasted hours ahead. Heat shimmers warp the orchard into a watercolor nightmare. Your ladle scrapes the cistern's bottom, a metallic scream echoing through drought-hardened clay. Historians still argue whether medieval Andalusian farms collected dew with sheep fleeces or just prayed harder. Your team flees. Desperation breeds invention. The keeper scowls. 3 sips maximum. Wells don't refill themselves unless you've mastered Carthaginian rain dances. Jugs glisten under the sun's interrogation, their damp patches forming Rorschach blots. 18th century Parisian wine cellars used similar porous clay to chill bottles, evaporation cheating thermodynamics. You imagine explaining Newtonian physics to the keeper then. Remember, they'd probably quote Phoenician irrigation manuals instead. Your ladle trembles, water sways like liquid mercury. An apiary joke dies in your throat. Bees are too parched to swarm. 6th century, Nubian well-diggers sang descending scales as they chiseled pitch-matching groundwater's depth. You hum a bass note, your cracked lips split further. The keeper smears wet clay on their forehead. Persian Connaught builders did this, cooling the brain during tunnel digs. It dries gray and apocalyptic, a crumbling crown. You decline the mud pack. Last week's attempt fused your eyebrows into a disapproving caterpillar. 27 jugs. 27 verdicts. You pour into a fig's basin, roots suckle greedily. 14th century Chinese gardeners timed irrigation by burning marked incense. Sticks agronomy meets aromatherapy. The keeper snaps, speed it up. Suns drinking faster than you're pouring. Your measuring cord reveals the truth. The wells dropped another finger width. Ottoman sultans executed well poisoners with their own contaminated water, a hydration-themed irony. You eye the keeper's dagger purely academically. Shadows stretch, sunset bleeds across the orchard. Each jug's waterline now matches the keeper's frown lines, a hydrographic portrait of despair. Napoleonic soldiers allegedly sucked pebbles to simulate saliva. You try it and nearly chip a molar. The keeper redistributes vessels with monastic precision, shuffling them like chess pieces. Roman aqueducts lost 30% to evaporation. Our ancestors were amateurs. You sacrifice your ration to a sapling. Its leaves curl like grateful infant fists. Dusk cools the clay. Jugs weep slower tears. The keeper recounts a legend where Alexander's army found honey seeping from desert, rocks probably just drunk on mirages. You lick a jug's damp side. It tastes like disappointment and terracotta. Frogs croak from bone-dry ditches, their throats puffing useless symphonies. The guardian of a Cusco well once starved rather than drink his charge, a fact that feels less noble by the second. Your canteen mocks you. It sloshes singing tavern songs. The keeper inspects a jug's interior, their nose almost touching the rim. Moonlit water rises differently. Ask any Carolingian monk. You don't ask. Humidity clings to your eyelashes, false promises of rain. Night falls. The calculus resumes by lamplight. 27 jugs become 27 wavering reflections. Orion's belt made ceramic. The keeper mutters a Berber chant for groundwater. Every third word a clicking consonant, meant to mimic spring bubbles. By midnight, 7 jugs stand drained, their bellies hollow as abandoned wasp nests. Phoenician traders weighted water sacks with silver to prevent theft, the original liquid assets. You sketch a sardonic toast. Your empty ladle catches moonlight instead. Crickets rasp like dehydrated scribes. The keeper rubs thyme oil into their wrists, a failed aromatic distraction. 8th century Baghdad's house of wisdom studied hydraulic engineering until thirstier minds burned it down. Dawn looms, an ashy smudge on the horizon. You drip your last legal sip over an almond tree's knuckled roots. Tennessee whiskey magnates once stole irrigation tricks from Egyptian cotton growers, capitalism's soggiest plagiarism. The keeper sleeps sitting up, a jug clutched to their chest like a stillborn child. Your finger traces the well's lowering watermark. The stone wears a bathtub ring of desperation. 20 jugs remain, each a sealed indictment of the coming day. Somewhere, a peach pit germinates in darkness, dreaming of juices it may never taste. The moon swells, a bloated pearl, above crumbling mud-brick sluices. Your boots squelch in moss-slick channels, water snakes, past carrying stolen starlight. The keeper kneels, tracing a constellation's reflection with calloused fingers. Nabateans shaped these canals to Milky Way currents. Their engineers worshipped lunar gravity before it was cool. Silver threads ripple through stone troughs, liquid mirroring Scorpio's tail above. You unclog a debris-choked grate. Twisted roots and crab claws spill onto your toes. 14th century Persian hydrologists charted tidal pools on groundwater, whole farms timed to the moon's blushing phases. A frog plops into the flow, its croak echoing the keeper's grunt of approval. Hear that bass note, means the siphon's drawing deep. Moonwater tastes different, metallic, and faintly luminous. Historians still argue whether Roman lunar aqueducts boosted olive yields or just gave priests an excuse for midnight strolls. You spit a twig, no terroir awards for celestial silt. The keeper scowls, quit lollygagging. Ptolemy didn't map the heavens so you could drip on your sandals. Clay channels narrow, constellations fracture into shimmering confetti. Your elbow bumps a lever, sluice gates crank upward with pained screeches. Medieval nuns allegedly sang plainsong to irrigation ditches, believing C-sharp made water flow more devoutly. You hum a Cole Porter riff. The keeper pelts you with a wet almond husk. Pomegranate roots snake into canals, their thirsty tips vibrating like divining rods. 18th century Dutch tulip brokers smuggled bog water, claimed to hold full moon nutrients, charged extra for astral infusion. You dunk your canteen, its tepid contents gain 0 prestige. The keeper crouches, sniffing flow patterns like a wine sommelier. Ottoman reservoir myths say moon-drunk water cures melancholia, also explains their poets, hiccuping verse forms. A fish darts past, its scales glinting like tossed drachmas. Your laugh startles an owl, its wings fan cool disapproval across your neck. Stonework tightens, canals become luminous capillaries, threading under twisted fig groves. Renaissance alchemists plotted lunar aqueducts on vellum, their inks mixed with crushed moth wings for night adherence. You brush glowing algae from a carved lion's mouth, its mossy tongue still SPITTING, Chinese letter rolled, engineering spite. Gravity does the real work. Water glides downhill with smug inevitability. The keeper mumbles calculations, their abacus beads clicking like insect mandibles. Byzantine tax collectors measured moonwater shares, executed thieves by forced dunking in dried cisterns. You sidestep a suspicious puddle, regret instantly soaks your left sock. Midnight bleeds toward dawn. The moon shrinks to a pale button. Your heel slips on slick stones. You windmill backward into the keeper's outstretched arm. Clumsy dervish, you'll join the pharaoh's drowned bureaucrats if you're not. Their threat dissolves into a wet chuckle. Reservoir gates loom, black iron scowling under dribbled starlight. The keeper's key grinds, rusted tumblers cough up centuries of oxidized secrets. Water thunder crashes into the vault below, a roaring libation to thirsty soil. 17th century Scottish distillers swore moon-fed barley yielded smokier whiskey. Acclaim bourbon makers still mock at dawn tastings. Your hand dips into the churning pool, fingers numb from cold and constellations. Feel that pull. The keeper's voice cuts through spray. Tiber River engineers called it Luna Vorax, moon's hunger bending water to its will. A droplet hangs on your lashes. The Big Dipper winks through its trembling curve. First light threatens. The canal's silver bleeds to tarnished pewter. The keeper slumps against a lichen-crusted pillar, eyes closed, lips moving through forgotten, locking hymns. You count 12 new leaks in the sluice network tomorrow's problems, birthed by tonight's reluctant miracles. Somewhere downstream, a parched lemon tree gulps star-stained water, its roots drunk on stolen sky. Cracked earth yawns beneath your boots, a mosaic of fissures, whispering thirst in every splintered line. Dawn licks the horizon. The keeper's shadow stretches taut across baked soil like a sundial's accusation. You kneel, fingertips graining dust that sparkles with mica flecks, a desert's crude glitter. Pharaohs called this the soil's hungry season. The keeper mutters, spitting into a fissure. It vanishes before hitting the void. 17th century Anatolian farmers buried clay bowls in barren fields, pleading with storm gods through terracotta symbolism. Your pinky snags on a pottery shard. Half a bovine snout glares up, still waiting for rain. The keeper snorts. Yep, those guys also thought goat urine fertilized clouds. Never trust a culture with spicy cheeses. You scoop parched dirt. It cascades through your fingers like a million tiny hourglasses. Historians still argue whether Roman dry farming techniques prevented famines, or just gave emperors better drought-themed poetry material. A hot gust slaps your neck, carrying the keeper's chuckle and the tang of distant lightning. Watch this, they rasp, jabbing a stick into a crevice. The ground rasps back, a sound like uncooked pasta snapping. Hear that? Topsoil's singing its death rattle. Beautiful, ain't it? You nod, though beauty feels as distant as monsoon clouds. Twisted acacia, roots claw upward their bark, peeled by desperate gazelles. The keeper tosses you a seed pouch, moringa. Survived 3 crusades and my ex-wife's cooking. You press a wrinkled pod into the dust, its future hinges on cosmic mercy. The 1930s Dust Bowl had similar optimism. You don't mention how that ended. A scarab beetle clacks past, its iridescent shell mocking your sunburned neck. 18th century French botanists wrote sonnets to drought-resistant lichen and promptly died of thirst crossing the Sahara. You trace a spiral in the dust, an improvised rain dance copied from a Netflix documentary. The keeper lobs a water skin, warm liquid hits your tongue like a plumbing pipe's sweat. Sip slow. This ain't one of your boozy brunches. You cough, it tastes of silt and stubbornness. Somewhere, a locust's wings scratch the air, nature's passive-aggressive slow clap. Shadows shrink as noon approaches. The keeper digs a pit with ritual slowness. Persian fire temple or my lunch toilet. Place your bets. Their joke hangs limp in the oven-breathed air. You chuck in a date pit, a meager offering to the compost pantheon. Heat shimmers twist the horizon. Mirage lakes taunt your dust-gridded eyes. 13th century Arab geographers mapped phantom oases, then charged travelers for disappointment insurance. The keeper shades their face with a brittle palm frond. Quit squinting. Your face'll stick like that happened to my uncle's camel. You carve a trench with blunted tools. Each scoop unearths pottery shards and brittle roots. An ant army swarms a buried fig chunk, its sugary heart surviving even this apocalypse. Told ya, the keeper cackles. Life's just mold with better PR. Dust devils waltz across the flats. Their swirling skirts snatch away your hat. The keeper bellows a curse in language older than irrigation. You chase the fugitive straw brim, wondering if this counts as cardio or cosmic humiliation. Beneath a rock overhang, the soil cools slightly, a relief so sharp it aches. The keeper unwraps figs withered into leathery commas, breakfast of has-been pharaohs. They declare, spitting seeds into a rusty tin. Archaeologists found similar tins in Pompeii stashed under beds like fermented regrets. Sunset comes as mercy. The sky bleeds through its bandages of dust. You scatter seeds into shallow graves, whispering promises you can't guarantee. The keeper lights a thornbrush fire. Its smoke smells of forgiveness and bad decisions. Night insects emerge, their clicks and whirs stitching holes in the silence. You lie back, spine imprinting cracked earth, a fossil in the making. Somewhere below, seeds dream in braille tracing, rains ghostly syntax against their papery skins. Your boothiel brushes fig bark, dry splinters scatter like brittle confetti. Moonlight slicks the orchard floor, silver puddles pooling where day's heat once pooled. A rustle, not wind. You freeze, every muscle translating millennia-old panic into modern indecision. The keeper hisses through yellowed teeth, don't breathe, or do. Either way, it's cheaper than a tomb carving. Between cracked roots, segmented curves glisten. The scorpion's tail arches, a question mark, dripping venomous ink. Ancient Egyptians deified these armored scribes, their venom tempered into medicines, their stings invoked in love spells. This one's carapace winks turquoise, a hue once reserved for pharaohs' burial masks. Bet it's a she, the keeper murmurs. Girl bosses of the poison arts, Alexander's troops wrote poems about them. Bad poems. Your fingers itch toward a rock, but survival instincts war with absurd respect. 14th century Venetian traders once sold scorpo powder as hair tonic, ground up exoskeletons mixed with donkey milk. You wonder if baldness felt worth the gamble. The creature pivots, legs clicking like abacus beads, tallying your trespass. Historians still argue whether Minoan seal carvings depict scorpion goddesses or just really angry lobsters. You edge backward, toes raking soil that crumbles like stale cake. Smart move, the keeper nods. Last helper who stomped one woke up peeing neon green. True story. Their grin flashes in the dark, a crescent moon of bad decisions. 2 almond shells away, the scorpion halts, antennae tasting fierce salt in the air. Your pulse thuds against your eardrums, a war drum from some forgotten dynasty. 9th century Baghdad apothecaries kept them in glass jars, live specimens for diagnosing tumors. You hope modern medicine never rediscovers that party trick. A fig plops, overripe sweetness exploding at your flank. The scorpion flinches, tail quivering like a composer's baton mid-crescendo. The keeper flicks a pebble. It arcs over the creature in a lazy parabola. Alphonse the Sixth supposedly drank scorpion wine before battles, died on the toilet. Poetic justice, really. Moonlight shifts. The predator becomes a shadow puppet, then a jagged ink blot. You mirror its retreat, each step negotiated through dust and dignity. Ottoman gardeners believed scorpions guarded apricot saplings from jinns. The tree beside you looks suspiciously unnibbled. They're just tourists with anger issues. The keeper shrugs, prodding the vacated ground with a stick, like that French guy who tried painting the pyramids pink. Respect the hustle. You exhale 3 days, tension fleeing your shoulders. The keeper tosses a withered date your way, celebratory snack. Tastes like regret and fiber. Somewhere beyond the wall, a desert fox yips, the orchard's night shift clocking in. Dew pearls on your sleeve, false promises of moisture. The keeper wipes their brow with a rag that's seen civilizations rise and fall. One time in Cordoba. You never hear the rest. The stars smother their laughter behind cosmic palms, keeping secrets only scorpions and cracked earth truly understand. The keeper's thumb rubs the cup's rim. A low hum vibrates the stale air. Steam ghosts your face. It smells of burnt sugar and warnings. Ever read your future in a breakfast beverage? They tilt the earthenware. Black dregs crawl like a drunk spider's artwork. Trick question. Nobody survived to review their experience. 3 lumps of ancient sugar plop into the brew, each dissolving slower than an apology. Your lips touch the rim, tannins bite back. Across North Africa, tea pouring remains a sacred gesture, a holdover from Silk Road traders bribing desert guides. This cup tastes older. The keeper's eyes narrow, reading sediment swirls like a bloodhound sniffing receipts. See that coil near the handle? Means you'll adopt a problematic goat. Or marry a tax collector, symbolism's murky post-inflation. You snort, hot liquid flares up your sinuses. 19th century British clairvoyance claimed tea leaves, predicted railway stocks. A scam rivaled only by their husband's hair tonic ventures. A leaf fragment clings to the clay, its edges charred into a hook shape. Ah, the vulture's talon. Classic. The keeper's grin sharpens. Either you're inheriting cursed land or someone's stealing your olives. Same difference, really. Moonlight bleeds through the cup's cracks, casting jagged stripes across your wrist. Down in Marrakesh, street mystics still sell gypsy tea readings to German tourists. Results suspiciously aligned with their TripAdvisor preferences. They tap the talisman cluster, a Rorschach blot of poor life choices. Historians still argue whether Mongol scouts used fermented leaves for battlefield prophecies, or just cheap vodka substitutes. You point to a smudge resembling a pregnant teapot. That mean free refills. That's a basilisk wearing socks. Obviously. Outside, wind riffles through dried lavender, the sound of nature eye-rolling. Queen Victoria allegedly sipped Earl Grey laced with medicinal whiskey, 2 sugars. No prophecies. You half expect the keeper to cite sources. Instead, they swirl the dregs counterclockwise. Here's the kicker. Predictions work best when you've already made the bad decision. Comfort in calamity. That's the real brew. The last drops cling like stubborn truth. Ottoman assassins once encoded death threats in tea offers. A floral note meant your liver was retiring early. You glance at the keeper's stained teeth, their smile, a rotten tomatoes score for your life choices. Relax, it's just leaf soup. They upend the cup onto your saucer. But if you wake up with hooves tomorrow, maybe lay off the fermented goat milk. Crickets resume their unpaid internship as night shift soundtrack. Somewhere, an overachieving owl dissects a foal's karma. The keeper wipes their palms on a rag older than penicillin. Next time, try coffee grounds. Less existential dread. More you'll meet a tall accountant. You pocket a sugar cube, a tiny rebellion against fate. Across the Mediterranean, 8,000 disillusioned souls are currently blaming tea leaves for their exes. The keeper retrieves the cup, already whispering to its cracks, like an old cell phone buzzing with spam calls. Stars pivot overhead, distracted waiters neglecting their celestial tables. Your future, whatever it is, smells like bergamot and poor judgment. The keeper's laugh follows you into the shadows, a sound like dice rattling in a clay jar. The olive press groans under its own weight, wood creaking like a sailor's ghost story. 73 fruits stain the grinding stone, their pulp oozing gold-green tears. You kneel, fingertips skimming the sludgy runoff, bitterness seeping into every cuticle. Roman tax collectors once demanded olive oil as currency. This orchard's ancestors probably funded someone's villa orgies. Count the amphory twice. The keeper mutters, poking the press with a rusted spoon. Math lies less when you threaten it. Their ledger flutters, pages stained with oil, and what might be pomegranate blood. Amphory glint in the sun, each clay belly swollen with liquid sunbeams. Your tally stick notches blur, 17 jars to settle the blacksmith's iron debt. 38 for the spice merchant's cinnamon bribes. None for you. A fly drowns in the oil trough, its final buzz echoing like a tiny death rattle. City folks romanticize harvests. They've never scrubbed olive pits from their toenails. You eye the keeper's scale, its bronze weights, suspiciously fox-shaped. Didn't this thing have owl engravings yesterday? Economy's shifting. They drop a fig into the balance pan. It instantly outweighs an amphora. Fruit standards more honest. Fight me. Cicadas scream approval from withered trees. Somewhere, a British museum curator sneezes. Your thoughts drift to looted artifacts. Historians still argue whether Phoenician traders cut olive oil with juniper juice or just hated their customers. The keeper spits into the press. cloud of dust rises like resentful champagne bubbles. Your shovel scrapes hardened pumice, the boiled leftovers of 100 grudges. Mediterranean farmers once buried this gunk under fig trees, a sacrifice to lesser gods. The keeper pockets a wrinkled olive, their fourth snack since noon. Pro tip: suck the pit clean before creditors arrive. Moral high ground tastes better salted. Wind riffles the ledger, revealing a doodle of a goat wearing a crown. You drag the last amphora into shadow, its belly sloshing like a drunkard's lunch. Ottoman tacksmen demanded oil to grease their warship hulls, the only time imperialism smelled like a salon spa. The keeper licks their spoon, inventing new flavor profiles. Ever notice how debt collectors and seagulls share the same laugh? They're not wrong. You chip crusted oil off the press, each flake a translucent scab. 17th century nuns allegedly used sacred oil to waterproof monastery roofs and spite local construction guilds. Sunset stains the ledger pages, orange ink calculations melting into Rorschach blots. 18 jars to the moneylender -6 for the scorpion tax. Scorpion tax. Defensive budgeting. They wink, a gesture that explains nothing. Your hands reek of fermentation and regret, an aroma that'll outlive your childhood memories. Archaeologists found a Carthaginian jar labeled olive oil, filled with pickled leeches. Ancient Yelp reviews were brutal. The press exhales a final wet squelch, retiring until next year's regrets. You pocket a single wrinkled olive, a trophy for surviving spreadsheet purgatory. The keeper kicks the scale, figs roll into the dust, their new currency regime toppled by gravity. Night arrives, cool air congealing the oil into a gelatinous sheen. Come back at moonrise, they whisper, gesturing to an amphora with suspicious claw marks. We'll candle the oil check for smuggled starlight. You walk past sleeping almond trees, their roots dreaming of simpler math. Somewhere, a tavern owner mixes oil into lamb stew, economics made digestible. The keeper's laugh echoes, sharp as shears, pruning fiscal responsibility. Moths dive bomb the remaining amphory, suicidal investors chasing liquid gold. Your sandals stick to spilled oil life's way of saying interest compounds. The keeper flicks a drop onto their forehead. It gleams like a third eye made of bad decisions. Dawn will demand new numbers, new lies, new olive pits to spit at the sun. For now, the air smells of arithmetic and smoke, the perfume of empires risen and ruined. Breeze plucks rosemary needles, their piney sting clinging to your collar like unpaid debts. Each gust carries receipts. Stolen orange blossoms from Marrakesh, panic sweat from Venetian spice ships, last Tuesday's fish market. You inhale sharply, the wind's a kleptomaniac, but at least it shares. The keeper fans ledger pages, flipping them like a flipbook of bad investments. Smell that. They point north, where storm clouds curdle, Saharan dust arguing with Baltic pine resin. Third-round knockouts get interesting. Their laugh gets hijacked by a gust, redistributed across 7-time patches. Ripples race through lavender rose, purple panic at an unseen disturbance. 14th century perfumers plotted theft routes down the Silk Road, capturing scents in wax-lined boxes. Your nose catches salt crust from Sicilian shores, smuggled inland by relentless updrafts. Crumbled feta or airborne ocean, the line blurs. Check this. The keeper rubs sage between palms, sharp green molecules detonating. Merchant from Samarkand wore this scent during caravan raids. Got stabbed over common prices. Ghosts still looking for receipts. You half expect an apparition demanding VAT exemptions. Dust devils spin through the compost pile, lofting decayed apricots into an airborne graveyard. Medieval monks believed rosemary's aroma repelled arithmetic errors. Hence their ledgers reeked of herb gardens. You tally jar shipments mid-sneeze. Your calculations inherit an accidental crown of oregano. Winds shift, burnt caramel and desperation waft from the south. The village bakery's almond macaroons meet the tannery's vats. Your stomach growls a hesitant truce. Ottoman poets wrote odes to Istanbul's breeze, all silk and cardamom, but never mentioned the sewage undertones. The keeper cups air near a beehive, harvesting gusts infused with propolis and lies. Smells like 3 cheating spice merchants and a homesick sailor. Their nostrils flare, human lie detectors powered by pollen. You catch bergamot undertones, relics from a sunken tea clipper, still perfuming the waves. A hot blast slaps your neck. The local blacksmiths forge, belching charred dreams. Renaissance alchemists tried distilling wind into bottled perfumes, got stuck on the capturing part. The keeper snorts. Geniuses missed the point. Scents are verbs, not nouns. Can't jail a hurricane in glass. Ragweed pollen launches a coup. Your sinuses wave white flags. Thin mint creeps in from the west, emergency coolant for nasal rebellions. Somewhere, a British earl's stolen roses flirt with Moldovan sunflower fields. Globalism smells like a drunk florist's ransom note. You unknot a wind-blown rag from a fig branch. It reeks of fermented grapes and bad decisions. Bordeaux vineyard worker's handkerchief, the keeper diagnoses, or a novice nun's communion wine spill. Same regret, different paperwork. They tie it to a prepaid censorship, decaying jasmine hits like a guilt trip. Last month's blooms refuse to quit gracefully. Historians still argue whether ancient perfumers added ground amber to rosewater or just enjoyed burning money. The keeper lobs a rotten quince into the gale, an olfactory grenade. Return to sender. Their problem now. Nightfall brings cooler currents, whispers of snow from alpine peaks, mingling with camel dung braziers in Marrakesh. Your forearm brushes wild thyme. Suddenly, you're a 9-year-old stealing cookies from a windowsill. Sent memories, the original time traveler. The keeper spreads their cloak, sailcloth, catching nocturnes of moss and distant wildfires. 8 cents per breath, minimum. Lungs process faster than spreadsheets. Moonlight etches their silhouette, a wind vein pointing toward trouble. You inhale deeply, tasting tomorrow's storms and yesterday's hearth ashes. Dawn will come with new thefts breeze, rifling through market stalls and royal gardens. For now, your pores drink monsoon hints from Goa, vineyard lullabies from Tuscany, diesel fumes from a highway 40 miles east. The keeper grins, their teeth glinting like ledger keys. Advantage of bankruptcy. You own what the wind brings. Your boots sink into mud thickened with flax pulp, the earth's own papier-mâché project. Baskets heave with blue blooms plucked at dawn, their stalks still weeping milky sap. Each flower winks like a tiny periwinkle eye, knowing it'll end as tablecloths or seafaring ropes. The keeper kicks a redding pit, murky water belching, fermented grass breath. Medieval guilds had tariffs for linen thread thickness, snapped a weaver's wrists for cheating measurements. You eye nearby reed baskets, their ribs flexing under fibrous loads. Tomorrow's sails rot here today. The ocean's patience worn thin. Rippled water reflects your face, warped by bacterial blooms. Phoenician traders soaked flax in camel urine for whiter threads, but donkeys worked better. The keeper sniffs the vat. We skipped the livestock. Use rain and rot, it's cheaper than apologies. You haul sopping stalks onto drying racks, their fibers clinging like desperate hands. 16th century peasants swore linen shifts, repelled lightning, wore them during storms as frayed armor. A droplet slides down your neck, the sky's early warning system. Crushing stalks underfoot, you feel centuries of blisters echo through your soles. Brittle outer shells crackle, releasing silken strands hidden inside. Someone's grandmother hums 3 fields over the tune, syncs with your stomps. Rhythms survive where languages falter. The spinning wheel creaks, a chorus of unoiled grievances. You feed fibers into its twirling maw, thumb brushing raw thread. Renaissance Italy prized Flemish linen for undergarments. Sweat evaporated faster than political alliances. The keeper smirks. Better than chainmail underwear. Trust me, calluses bloom on your palms, puffy and translucent like overproofed dough. Historians still argue why Byzantine emperors wore linen tunics under silk, status symbol or flea deterrent. You wind threads onto bone shuttles, each rotation tightening tomorrow's textiles. Loom weights clack like demented metronomes. The keeper adjusts warp threads, squinting at their geometry. Miss by a hair, and your blanket strangles itself. Saxon weavers buried flawed cloths, ashamed to let their mistakes keep anyone warm. Sunset turns flax fields into a copper sea, stubbled stalks, poking through like drowned fingers. You rub bergamot oil into cracked hands, pain and citrus merging into something almost pleasant. Blisters mean you're learning. The keeper lies cheerfully. Also that you're terrible at gloves. Moths orbit your headlamp, dive bombing the wool scarf you shouldn't have worn. Starch stiffens newly woven cloth, making it stand at attention like a bashful soldier. Ottoman dyers boiled madder root for reds, their cauldrons bubbled with alchemical vengeance. The keeper flips a finished table runner, its hem stitched with invisible regrets. Good enough for a nun's dowry or a smuggler's sale. Moonlight reveals pale constellations of mended tears. Every repairs a battle scar, textile tributes to human clumsiness. Dawn finds you knee-deep in seed baskets, next year's crop rattling like dried bones. Wind combs through drying linen, fabric snapping like pirate flags above a sea of blue. You press a woven swatch to your cheek. The touch maps a future you'll never meet. Frost feathers spiderweb across your boots before sunrise. Its lacework crunches like shattered glass. The keeper stands motionless, breath curling into the fig tree's skeletal arms, colder than a pharaoh's tomb. They murmur, eyes tracking the orchard's crystallized exhalations. You kneel beside a sapling, its leaves stiff with rime. Medieval monks wrapped apple saplings in lamb's wool fleece as insulation against heaven's indifference. Your fingers fumble with stolen shearling scraps, pilfered from a merchant caravan last solstice. Historians still argue whether the Little Ice Age began with volcanic whispers or solar tantrums. The keeper snorts. Cold's just cold, blame the stars. Ice patterns bloom on clay pots, fern fractals, expanding with each stolen breath. A berry bursts its frost-swollen skin, seeds scattering like shrapnel on frozen soil. You murmur an Andalusi nursery rhyme, the one about almonds outsmarting winter. Your vowels hang visible, then vanish. The keeper slaps your hands away from an ice-glazed well pulley. 17th century frost fairs sold gingerbread and hypothermia. Let's skip both. They toss you a horsehair blanket reeking of camphor. Wrapped saplings sway woolen bandages glowing bone-white under a leprous moon. Dawn leaks across the orchard, a tarnished silver plate. You spot paw prints fossilized in icy mud, a desert fox testing the cold's teeth. Roman naturalists believed jackals licked hoarfrost to sharpen their vision. The keeper adjusts a sapling's bindings. Don't anthropomorphize the weather. It's simpler than us and crueler. Fickle sunlight fractures through ice-rimmed branches. You shield your eyes from the glare. A frost-brittled twig snaps underfoot. The crack echoes like a gunshot. 14 small oranges cling to a sheltered branch, their dimpled skins mocking the freeze. By noon, the keeper's scales tilt. You count frost-culled fruits, each loss a debt subtracted from spring's ledger. Ice preserves as much as it kills. They muse, pocketing a shriveled quince. Mamluk chefs candied frostbitten apricots, claimed the sugar-balanced winter's nihilism. Dusk brings needle-sharp stars, their light glinting off ice-armored branches. You untangle frozen prayer, flags from a pomegranate tree, their silk stiff with vanished pleas. The keeper melts snow in a tin cup, adds time. Siberian herders drunk on fermented mare's milk tell better cold tales. Your scarf fuses to your lips, wool and frozen breath conspiring. Frost paints the keeper's eyebrows spectral white. They resemble an ink drawing smudged by time. You recall that Inuit languages have 9 words for ice. None fit this slow strangulation of green. Moonrise ignites the orchard's crystal lattice, a frozen cathedral humming in ultraviolet. The keeper stamps their feet, a jackhammer rhythm disturbing the silence. France Joseph Land explorers ate lichen soup. We've got mint tea count blessings. You press an ear to a bundled sapling, sap creaks like bending iron. Somewhere a frozen olive splits its pit, a delayed surrender. The keeper fans smudge sticks, juniper smoke battles the cold's metallic stench. Dawn's closer now. So's the next freeze. The clay kettle hisses like a vexed cat, its spout dribbling elderberry steam. You watch the bubbles rise, each bursting purple-black like dying violets. Final harvest brew, the keeper announces. Their scarred hands cradle the vessel like a holy relic. 17th century Dutch still lifes lied about fruit baskets, but their elderberry ink stayed truthful. Threadbare mittens fail your numb fingers. The cup they offer scorches your palms anyway. Tartness hits first, then the earthy aftertaste of roots clinging to riverbanks. Legends claim Spanish midwives boiled this same brew for birth rooms to outwit evil spirits drawn to blood. The keeper spits a berry seed into the frost. Superstition's just science we've forgotten to measure. Ice glazes your eyelashes. Blinking turns the orchard into a fractured prism. Someone, maybe you, mentions the Aztec chocolate ritual. The keeper snorts. Cacao's for tourists. Real cold needs iron and regret. Their laughter sounds like a whetstone on dull metal. 2 more cups disappear. Your tongue stains violet black. Byzantines swore elderberry wine revealed assassins by making their teeth glow. You check your nails. No luminosity beyond chipped dirt. Historians still argue whether Venetian merchants spiked it with carp bile or just bad hygiene. The keeper toasts the air, a tribute to unanswered questions. Dawn's feeble light reveals the dregs, a sludge resembling congealed night. The keeper upturns the kettle onto frozen soil. Steam screams as it hits the earth. Florentine alchemists tried distilling frost into perfume, got 73 dead songbirds instead. You picture tiny frozen bodies, feathers stiff as quills. Your cup cracks, an inevitable casualty of unequal heating. The keeper pockets a shard, likely future mosaic material. They murmur a Sicilian folk tune, something about widows and sour cherries. You hum along badly. Ice amplifies every off-key note. 3 crows land in a fig tree. Judges in black robes. The brew's warmth fades, leaving your ribs clawed hollow by the cold. Ottoman hammam attendants used elderflower lotion to soothe chilblains. You mention this, hoping for sympathy. The keeper tosses you a rock salt lump instead. Scrub your knuckles raw. Blood flows better than aromatherapy. Shadows stretch longer, siphoning what little heat remains. You count empty cups. 9. 9 offerings to the orchard's hibernation. A berry stem floats in murky dregs, its curve mirroring Scorpio's tail above. Somewhere, a branch surrenders to ice, splitting with a sound like snapping vertebrae. The keeper wipes their mouth, their lips now wine-dark and cracked. Time was. French winemakers blamed elderberry thieves on werewolves. They smirk, showing teeth stained like old parchment. Turned out, just hungry nuns with sticky fingers. Your laugh comes out as a wheeze, lungs rejecting both humor and cold. You crunch through the ice crust toward the gate, bootprints fracturing like archaeological strata. The keeper stays behind, stirring ashes with a charred stick. Venetian plague doctors wore those beaked masks, but it's your breath hanging milky in the air now. Last sips taste like fermented shadows, a vintage only December understands. Your fingers find the vial stolen earlier nestled against your ribs. The keeper's gaze pierces through woolen layers. Stole some future, did you? You palm the elderberry extract, same shade as fresh bruises. They shrug, a gesture that costs calories. Thieves planted Versailles first gardens, not saints. Your thieving hand tingles, whether from guilt or frostbite remains unclear. The crows depart, wings creaking under frost's weight. Twilight arrives uninvited, dragging its indigo cloak across the orchard. The keeper pats your shoulder, shards of ice flake off their sleeve. Persian poets called this hour the wolf's wedding. You picture fanged nuptials under skeletal trees, appropriate for the season. Your stolen vial warms against your sternum, promise of spring in condensed form. The keeper kicks the dead fire, embers scatter like fleeing stars. Go, they rasp. First snow's coming to reclaim its stories. You walk backward at first, watching steam still rise from their stained kettle. Their silhouette shrinks, a ragged thorn against gathering clouds. By the gate, you touch the vial again. Through wool and flesh, your heartbeat mirrors the bruise boil. The stolen vial pulses against your ribs, a smuggled ember in winter's fist. Scorpio glowers overhead, its stinger aimed at the earth cellar's rusted hinges. You descend, stone steps worn concave by centuries of harvest custodians. Cold clings tighter here, air thick with the musk of parched clay and patience. Jars line niches hacked into bedrock, ochre labels whispering almond fourth drought generation, or pomegranate, fire blight resistant. 9th century Arab botanists stored date palm seeds in lead caskets, insured against caliphate collapses. You trace a jar's lip, your touch smudging charcoal census marks. Mold spores glitter in your lantern's sway, a mimicry of constellations above. One vessel holds peach pits from a Mughal emperor's orchard, their fuzz preserved in beeswax. Historians still argue whether Tang dynasty seed vaults prioritized flavor or survival traits. The sour truth. Famines vote louder than taste buds. You unstop your vial, elderberry essence pools in a clay dish. Stealing feels less criminal here. Every jar's already a theft from Time's vault. A 1920s expedition found barley grains in pharaohs' tombs, still sproutable after 3 millennia. You cough dust tastes like pharaoh lung and capitalist guilt. Scorpio's light leaks through a ceiling slit, etching your shadow onto seed sacks. Ninth sack down, the keeper's newest hoard. Brittle flax stems rustle as you bury your contraband. Medieval nuns sewed heirloom bean varieties into saints' shrouds, holy theft against crop failures. Your vial nestles among woolly thistle down. F-U-T-U-R-E, Chinese letter of purple amid the gray. Lantern oil sputters, wick chewing through its final swim. Ottoman spice traders believed peppercorns warded off archive moths. You lob a stolen elderberry, it rolls into darkness like a lost pension. The impact echoes, awakening a drowsy gecko clinging to the ceiling. Its tail detaches, plops into a jar labeled saffron crocus, deficit harvest. Breath crystallizes on jar lids, frost forging temporary mosaics. You count 12 breaths before the ice patterns fracture. Arab Al-Andalus farmers grafted fig cuttings onto ghosts of raised orchards, green resurrection. Your numb fingers fumble the dish, elderberry syrup oozes over limestone. Ants emerge, feasting on the stain with imperial determination. The lantern dies, darkness absolves all colors, but Scorpio's blue glare. You ascend backward, palm pressed to the wall's chalk tallies. Each notch marks a survived disaster, floods, locusts, that weird hail of frogs in 43. Above ground, frost has scribbled its manifesto across every surface. The keepers nowhere seen, only their shovel leaning against a withered almond trunk. 17 steps from cellar to gate, you count them twice. Roman grain silos used hollow reeds for pest control. Rats hate echo chambers. Your boot crushes a fallen scorpion, carapace pops like overripe lavender. Guilt? None. They'd have nested in the barley sacks come spring. Byzantium's imperial seed reserves required passwords sung in 3 octaves, high C's to deter mice. You hum a shaky scale, gate hinges creak in approximate B-flat. Dawn lingers hours away, the orchard's breath held in frozen suspension. You pocket a single saffron crocus corm, insurance against borrowed time. Back in the cellar, ants march your elderberry tribute into cracks, underground rivers of syrup and chitin. Stars pivot, Scorpio's tail dips toward the horizon. Somewhere, a vault guardian opens their palms, spilling next century's seeds into unknowing soil. Frost stiffens your bootlaces. Each step cracks ice welded to time blossoms. Cold air steals your breath, or maybe the orchard reclaims it. Roman road builders' cursed frost heaves that cracked their precious straight lines. Your path snakes crooked, following last week's sparrow tracks in the rime. The gate looms, wood warped into arthritic angles by centuries of damp. One hinge sports a wasp nest from the Carter administration. Paper architecture, frozen mid-scurry. You pause, remembering those 9th century Arab ice harvesters who stacked winter in straw-lined cellars. Historians still argue whether Mongolian horse milk ice cream counts as paleo diet compliant. Iron latch bites your palm, cold, conducting through wool mittens. 16th century Venetians believed opening frozen gates before dawn summoned marble demons. You shove anyway, the whine of metal on metal sends crows scattering. Their protests flutter down as black feathers and misplaced commas. Sunlight claws at the horizon, a weak scratch across leaden clouds. Your shadow stretches thin, a taffy-smeared version of yourself reaching for the road. Frozen puddles glitter like dropped communion wafers underfoot. Medieval monks planted time near gates to track trespassers by crushed scent. But dead leaves tell no secrets today. A single green shoot pierces ice by the gatepost, defiant as a middle finger. You crouch, gloved finger brushing its waxy surface. Xerophyte adaptation or seasonal miscalculation. Renaissance botanists once mailed frozen seedlings to prove eternal life through ice. This sprouts no phoenix, just dumb luck in an unseasonal thaw pocket. 3 miles downhill, the village exhales wood smoke and goat bells. Your flask sloshes, last night's mint tea, now a viscous sludge. Ottoman sleigh messengers drank pepper-infused ice to stay awake between blizzards. You sip, brain cells screaming in equal parts alertness and regret. The orchard's murmur fades, replaced by wind combing through bare almond branches. Your stolen corm nestles in a coat pocket, saffron's golden potential against thrice-darned wool. Byzantine nuns smuggled silkworm eggs in hymn scrolls, holy contraband veiled in plain chant. This theft feels cheaper, no divine justification, beyond personal curiosity. Ice fractures under heel, a spiderweb of cracks racing toward the valley. 17th century Japanese poets called this shimagare, the loneliness of footsteps on frozen ground. You count your breaths, 17 before the echo dies. A mud-flecked signpost points west, Marrakech, 42 km etched by optimistic hands. Ottoman mile markers lied shamelessly to demoralize invaders. You check your compass, needle trembling between truth and magnetic whimsy. Last week's ice storm glazes the valley, poplars bent like glass harp strings. Your boot finds a hidden ditch, knee-deep in slush and humiliation. Airship explorers in the 1920s cataloged 83 types of snow, none matched. Ambush by previously paved road. Frost scribbles illegible glyphs across your sleeve, nature's discarded rough draft. You shake them off, flakes swirling like a racer, crumbs from a cosmic mistake. One crystal's lands on your tongue, tastes of dust and diesel from some far-off highway. The village smoke thickens, clinging to your scarf as apologies. 3 hens peck at a frozen puddle beaks, chipping at light's reflection. A 14th century French chef served gilded ice sculptures that gave nobles mercury poisoning. These birds feast safer, just brittle water and their own distorted selves. Sun finally breaches the clouds, weak lemon light melting, gate frost behind you. Drip, 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 the orchard's breath, releasing in measured exhalation. You turn for one last look, but the valley's already erased your path with liquid gold. Walking feels lighter now, stolen corn and guilt leaching into the mud. The road ahead weaves through olive groves, squatting under snow duvets. Somewhere behind you, a sparrow's beak cracks last week's ice. The sound carries further than it should. Frost releases its grip, your breath, no longer snatched, just shared with the waking earth. Each step whispers through slush, ice yielding to the sun's pale fingers. That lone green shoot by the gatepost bends, not broken its waxy sheen, glinting like a dare. You touch it once, glove damp, with thaw no answers offered. Somewhere a brook mutters under its icy lid, testing syllables of spring. 14th century glassblowers in Damascus crafted frost patterns onto lamps, committing winter to permanence. You prefer it like this, fleeting, the cold's sharp edges blurring. Your shadow shortens, no longer stretched thin by dawn's uncertainty. The stolen corn rests warm in your pocket, no longer theft, just future roots. Byzantine hymn melodies hum in your skull, or is it wind through almond branches? Either way, it gentles the rhythm of your boots. 3 crows spiral overhead, their wings scritching the sky's blank page. You count their cries, 8, 9, 10, until numbers lose meaning. Wood smoke unfurls from the village, a charcoal sketch against pewter clouds. Your flask thaws, mint tea seeping through wool, staining mittens with forgiveness. Ottoman messengers buried frozen rosewater in snowbanks. Summer reclaimed sip by shivering sip. You drink bitter and sweet and pocket the empty vessel. Behind you, the orchard gate sighs shut its rusty hinge, singing a single iron note. Ice cracks one last time, a fractured lullaby echoing up the valley. 17th century mapmakers labeled such spaces terra remixed, landscapes resisting borders. You walk on road dissolving into mud and possibility. The sparrow's distant peck fades, replaced by goat bells clanking like clumsy chimes. Your knees ache, your chest burns, your pockets hold nothing but seeds and stories. A thrush lands on the signpost, tilts its head, sings 6 notes once used by Carthaginian shepherds to count stars. You hum them back, off-key, as the path ahead softens into loam. Snowdrops erupt through a ditch, pale fists, uncurling under weak light. You kneel, the earth's cold kiss seeping through patched trousers. No historians here, no debates, just green defiance and your own thawing pulse. By the time you reach the first olive grove, the sky remembers its bluest vowels. Frost lingers only in shadows, shy ghosts retreating from dawn's murmurs. Your stolen corn could sleep here or travel further. The choice feels lighter now. Wind stirs the trees, a rustle of old letters read aloud. You exhale, the orchard's name disintegrating on your tongue, becoming just air, just breath, just this.